Kadia was a girl marked by a tragic fate. At a very young age, she passed away due to a terrible accident. Yet, by some miracle, she was reborn and transported into a novel she had once read. Fortunately, her new life was simple and happy. Mr. Hurston loved her deeply, despite their lack of blood relation. It wasn't until Mr. Hurston's passing that Kadia learned a shocking truth. Mr. Hurston was the former Duke of Blasco, and he had transferred all his assets to his heir. Kadia, once a girl ignorant of wealth, suddenly possessed a vast fortune coveted by all. What would Kadia's new life be like in the Blasco family castle? Let's follow her journey together. The story begins with a weary sigh. Kadia Ainsley's small hand struggling to wring out a soaked cloth. She looked at her hands and whispered, so small. My magic is weak, and my physical strength is poor. When will I grow up? Kadia thought sadly. If I were a little older, maybe I wouldn't have to struggle so much to wring out a cloth like this. Then I could take better care of him. Heartbreaking tears welled up, threatening to spill over. After a long moment of contemplation, Kadia hurried to Mr. Hurston's room. She peeked through the doorway, watching her grandfather sleep soundly. Seeing his face grow thinner and his breathing weaker, Kadia couldn't contain her emotions and called out, "Grandpa." She placed a warm cloth on Mr. Hurston's forehead. Then she sat by his bedside, tending to him throughout the night. It's been 5 years since I was born as Kadia Ainsley. I remember my past life. This situation isn't any different from the beginning of any transmigration story. I died in a traffic accident, but when I woke up, I found myself inside a novel I had just finished reading 2 hours prior. But thankfully, I'm not a vicious villainess or a supporting character destined to die upon appearing. I'm just an ordinary background character who will never encounter the main characters. Instead, I'm content with this life, compared to parents who couldn't fulfill their responsibilities or a fierce struggle with poverty. Simply living in a small house with someone who cares for me, without starving, is happiness enough for me. Though those days hadn't lasted, remembering them sent a pang of pain through Kadia's heart. The day she was abandoned on the streets by her birth parents was also the day she met Mr. Hurston, who took her in despite having no blood relation to her. Since Mr. Hurston had no experience caring for babies, every time I cried loudly, he would be at a loss, Kadia recalled with a smile. With his stubborn personality, raising me must have been hard work. Of course, when I got a little older, he made me do a lot of chores like cleaning. Child scrubbed the cloth hard, just like this. In those moments, I just wanted to run away from this life. Suddenly, Mr. Hurston's weak voice called out, "My child." Kadia's mouth dropped open in surprise, and she jumped up, crying, "Grandpa, you're awake." Sweat trickled down Mr. Hurston's face. He turned to Kadia and asked, "Have you done everything I asked you to do?" She gave a bright smile and replied, "Yes, sir. I've sent the letter to the address you wrote." Kadia feigned cheerfulness, but deep down, she resented the indifference of Mr. Hurston's relatives towards him. He said the letter was his will, but he had been sick for a week, and those so-called family members hadn't even sent a reply. His condition is so critical. Why hasn't anyone come? Kadia's small hand tightly gripped Mr. Hurston's calloused one. Despite his exhaustion, he managed a faint, contented smile. "It's good to have you by my side in my final moments." Hearing those words, Kadia asked in a panic, "What do you mean by final moments?" Uncontrollable tears streamed down her cheeks. "Every day you would scold me, 'Hey child, hurry up.' You'd also make me clean and ask me where the rent was. But why are you so weak now?" Mr. Hurston, his voice grave, asked Kadia, "My little bear, have you thought about how you'll live after I'm gone?" Kadia burst into tears, sobbing, "I won't think about it. You promised to take me to the summer festival next month. You also said you'd take me skiing in the winter." The image of them playing together, she realized, might never happen again. If that's the case, Kadia reproached him, "Why did you promise? If you die like this, I'll tear down this whole house. I'll sell everything in it." Unexpectedly, Mr. Hurston calmly told her, "All right, you can take it all." He wiped away Kadia's tears and asked, "Little one, why don't you think about how you're going to live?" "Don't worry, Kadia. I've arranged everything." "If not you, then who else is qualified?" Kadia cried, rejecting everything. "I don't need those things." Seeing Mr. Hurston's eyes slowly closing, she could only desperately plead, "I'm not ready to leave you. Don't go. Please stay with me a little longer." Before taking his last breath, Mr. Hurston didn't forget to tell Kadia, Don't cry, my dear child. With these words, he let go of all his worries and peacefully passed away. The candle flickered and died, the atmosphere growing intensely gloomy. We'll meet again, Grandpa, she whispered. A beautiful sunset, but perhaps for Kadia, the saddest day of her life. She stood quietly beside Mr. Hurston's coffin, gently placing a lily upon it. Kadia's eyes were swollen from crying, and thankfully, kind neighbors were there to support her. After the funeral, she had to consider what to do next. She silently bid him farewell. Grandpa, rest in peace. I'll live to be 100, so see you in 90 years. Suddenly, a stranger approached and asked, "Excuse me, are you Miss Kadia Ainsley?" She quickly wiped her tears and replied, "Yes, I'm Kadia. Who are you?" It wasn't just one person, but a group of people who came to find her, seemingly for something important. "Miss Kadia, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Jimmy, Accountant Parker from the Blasco ducal family." Kadia's eyes widened in surprise. "Did you say Blasco?" James smiled and replied, "Yes." As Kadia understood it, Blasco was the one and only infamous ducal family in the Empire. Fearfully, she asked, "What business does the Blasco family have with me?" James produced a letter and told her, "According to the late Duke's will, splendidly decorate my coffin and bury me in the Blasco family's main tomb in Arden. So, I've come to retrieve his coffin." Surprise after surprise, Kadia's jaw dropped. "You don't mean Mr. Hurston?" She could hardly believe her ears. James continued to explain, "Since I've been ordered to retrieve the coffin immediately, I'll take my leave now." Kadia thought to herself, that crest. Oh my God, it really was the Blasco family. He never told me. James then delivered even more shocking news. The late Duke of Blasco also has another will for Miss Kadia. She gasped. "What?" He slowly pulled a letter from a paper bag and solemnly declared, "All my assets, excluding inheritance tax, including cash, my private vault at the central bank, the net profits of the Autumn Linden and Galefur territories, ownership of the Information Association I once ran, my collection of art and antiques, and everything I own will be inherited by Miss Kadia." That's what the letter says. Kadia was speechless. From an ordinary girl, she had instantly become a multi-millionaire with an immense fortune. Back in the familiar surroundings of her home, in the living room, Kadia asked Jimmy, "Besides me, is there anyone else inheriting?" He smiled and said, "No, madam. According to the main contents of the will, only Miss Kadia is the sole heir." Her hands trembled uncontrollably. "So much wealth all to me? This isn't millionaire. I become a billionaire. Isn't that right?" Jimmy asked. "If Miss Kadia agrees, we will go to the Blasco family estate, meet with Von Lynn, and then carry out the inheritance procedures. Would that be all right with you?" She managed a weak smile, hesitantly replying, "Yes." Meanwhile, Jimmy added, "The Duke is also waiting for you." Another blow landed. Wait, the Duke of Blasco? A master swordsman, a top-tier knight for a decade, but he had a personality disorder. A psychopath, always throwing tantrums at anyone who annoyed him, and a sharp tongue. On top of that, in the original novel, his adopted daughter, Yuju, was treated like dirt and was the head of the villainous group. Am I crazy to even consider going there? Kadia waved her hand dismissively. "No," she told Jimmy. "I refuse. Thank you for the offer." He wouldn't give up, resorting to some psychological manipulation. 1 million gold coins in cash alone, including the stipend from the territory. You'll also receive an additional 100,000 gold coins annually. Those words struck a nerve. Kadia glared at Jimmy. The audacity. How did he see her? Did he think she was some commoner who would sell her life for money? Kadia appeared indifferent to material things. That's what she wanted people to think. Inwardly, however, she was ecstatic at the mention of such a vast sum. Kadia had her own struggles, after all. The pain of being penniless in her past life was enough. Jimmy added with a smile, "You also inherit 50% of the Information Association's profits, a house in Altum, and a mansion in the capital." Kadia gasped. "A house in the capital?" Houses in the capital are incredibly expensive. I own one. The dream of decorating her own house, unfulfilled in her past life, was finally within reach. As Kadia reveled in her internal celebration, Jimmy shook his head. But I'm not forcing you. If Miss Kadia refuses, then forfeiting the inheritance." He didn't finish his sentence. He saw she had already packed her bag. "Let's go. I'm ready." Another sunset arrived. Kadia sat in the carriage, a dazed look on her face. Okay, it wasn't greed. She was just curious. That crazy Duke had a massive fortune too. Would he offer a house loan? What were the inheritance procedures? The thoughts made her anxious. Seeing her giggling to herself all the way, Jimmy asked with concern, "Miss Kadia, are you all right?" She snapped back to reality. "Yes, I'm a little tired, so I'm a bit out of it." Jimmy smiled understandingly. "It happened." Kadia asked hesitantly, "What did you mean earlier by Von Lin?" Jimmy explained, The Von Lin are holy souls, the spirits of our ancestors who are still alive, in a way. Not strictly living, but they can see, hear, and express their thoughts. Thanks to her past life memories, Kadia quickly recalled the Blasco. Von Lin, a key element in the novel. For centuries, ever since the first head of the family conquered the Demon King, who caused the Dark Ages on the continent with his sword, subsequent Blasco family heads had guarded the sword to prevent the Demon King's return. It was a pact with the Demon King. The Demon King submitted to the family head, and in exchange, the family head offered human souls for the demonic sword to exist. According to the pact, it was said that generations of the family became souls bound to the sword after death. Jimmy confided in Kadia. The souls are actually all gathered in the soul tower within the mansion where the demonic sword sleeps. Tears welled in her eyes. "Then, can I see him again?" Jimmy smiled, confirming, "Of course." Hearing this, Kadia felt even more elated. "Grandpa, I thought I'd never hear you scold me again. So I wasn't the only one left." Suddenly, a question popped into her head. "But if you're the deceased Duke, then is the Duke of Blasco your son? It's clear you had two sons before you. One passed away, and the other. You left because you didn't want to see him talk back anymore. He was stubborn back then. I thought in that situation, it should be the son who runs away from home, not the parents. So that's the story of you retiring and passing the dukedom to the next duke. Wait, then why am I the sole inheritor?" To answer her own question, Kadia asked Jimmy, "But you didn't pass any assets to the duke?" He chuckled, lowering his voice. "Yes. Right after the day the deceased duke argued with the current duke, he left the head family and disappeared completely." The more Kadia heard, the more bewildered she became. "So, what exactly will my situation be in Blasco? How is the female protagonist treated in the novel?" According to the original story, Jimmy explained, "We truly possess magic. It was Nilla's tragic era. Because the female protagonist resonated with that sword, she was adopted by the villainous Blasco family. The girl was treated like a freeloader. The only way for her to survive was to fight tooth and nail with her brothers to inherit the magic sword. However, she couldn't endure the bullying and eventually ran away from the Duke's mansion. She sought help from the White Knights, the only force that could resist Blasco. There, Nilla met the male protagonist. He was of equal lineage. Thus, she gained the male protagonist's support, and they fought against Blasco to inherit the magic sword. It's a coming-of-age romance story. Instead of Apple being consumed by the magic sword to save him, the female protagonist was reborn as the true inheritor of the magic sword. But the story stopped publishing, so it's abruptly cut off in the middle. And it's such a crucial part, just seconds after the protagonist fell into a trap and were about to reunite. After feeling frustrated, a thought suddenly occurred to Kadia, but it was irrelevant now. My current situation isn't one where I can be concerned about others. My situation is just like when Nilla returned as an adopted daughter. What did Nilla hear back then? You're as filthy as the dirt scattered around the mansion. Nothing here belongs to you. You're not even allowed to breathe here. Why should I help you? You're just a freeloader of Blasco. Recalling these words from the original story, Kadia's future seemed to crumble. She sat there, desperately covering her face. Not only the son, but even the granddaughter is spoiled. I'm a complete stranger with no blood relation, but 2/3 of Blasco's assets became mine. Isn't it incredibly fortunate if I'm not kicked out? In the worst-case scenario, I might be buried somewhere behind a mountain. Kadia asked Jimmy, her voice trembling, "Mr. Jimmy, when can I meet Mr. Hurston?" He seemed surprised by her question. "I don't know right now. His soul may have left his body to allow the salt to stabilize. It will take at least 2 months, or 3, if it takes longer." This answer was like a bolt from the blue for Kadia. 2 or 3 months. I'm doomed. I should have asked my questions before he passed away. The carriage gradually entered the castle courtyard. Blasco was known for their minds being quicker than their words, and their fists quicker than their minds. It was said that because they possessed immense power and colluded with the military, almost all of their unusual actions were overlooked. Generations ago, this family invested heavily in the weapons business, mining minerals, refining steel, and practicing alchemy. Because they were made according to a secret recipe from a swordsmanship family, those high-quality weapons sold like hotcakes. As their wealth and fame increased significantly, it became clear that their words carried more weight. Some even said that even the emperor was slightly inferior to the Blasco family. Kadia was stunned as she stepped into the castle. I wonder just how vast this incredible Blasco family truly is. Really, this is a palace, not a mansion. The glimmer of diamonds and gems is everywhere. Kadia shook her head repeatedly to regain her focus. No, concentrate. Now is not the time to be distracted. On the way, she carefully calculated her next move. When I see the Duke, I'll kneel and immediately renounce the inheritance. That's better than meeting the Grim Reaper. Also, I'll ask if I can still live in the house where Grandpa and I lived. They're probably not planning to silence me, are they? Jameson announced to the Duke. Your Grace, I've brought Miss Kadia Ainsley. A voice came from within. Enter. The door slowly opened. Her feet slowly turned towards the doorway. The Duke's face was finally revealed. At first glance, Kadia was captivated by his beauty. She'd heard tales of him slaying a bear with his bare hands and expected a hulking, grizzled general. He was nothing like that. His eyes, a sapphire blue said to be a hallmark of the Blasco family, were mesmerizing. The Duke's sudden voice startled Kadia from her reverie. Is this little runt the subject of that absurd will? She quickly shook off her captivation. Oh dear, look at me, smitten by a pretty face. Kadia bowed formally to the Duke. May the protection of the demonic sword be with the Sapphire Blasco family. I am Kadia Ainsley, seeking an audience with the Duke. He should tell me to raise my head now. If it goes like I read, she thought, keeping her head bowed, awaiting his command. But she waited, and nothing happened. One with her head bowed low, the other standing motionless like a statue. A thick silence filled the room. After several minutes, Kadia began to feel uneasy. What? Why isn't he saying anything? I can't raise my head without permission. Is he doing this on purpose to make me uncomfortable? Finally, the Duke deigned to speak. How old are you? Jimmy answered for her. I heard she's 10. Is that correct? From their very first meeting, she was subjected to the Duke's scrutiny. 10 years old, small as my hand. Did your father starve you? You look like a dried-up orange. Kadia felt a surge of discomfort, but couldn't retort. An orange? How utterly pointless. Raise your head and come closer. Let me see your face, the Duke commanded. Kadia quickly smoothed her hair and offered the Duke a bright smile. Slowly, step by step, she approached him. As she walked, a sense of dread crept over her. He hasn't told me to stop yet. If this keeps up, we're going to bump into each other. I just wanted to see what kind of sly fox you are, the Duke said, his voice sharp. Jimmy, put her on the table. Kadia began to tremble, a sense of foreboding washing over her. On command, Jimmy grabbed her by the clothes. Excuse me, Miss Kadia. And just like that, Jimmy lifted Kadia with ease, as if she were a balloon. Now we're eye to eye, the Duke said, looking at her face. Jimin lifted Kadia with surprising lightness, and the Duke, their eyes now aligned, said, now we're at eye level. He brought his face closer, scrutinizing her more intently. Orange hair and blue eyes. Definitely not a Blasco descendant. Jimmy began. Orange, you can only answer yes or no. Yes, I'll ask the first question now, Jimmy replied. First, is it true that Miss Kadia was abandoned 10 years ago with only a piece of paper bearing her name and a small pendant? And is that why Mr. Hurston took pity on her and raised her until now? Kadia meekly replied, yes. The Duke, standing beside her, chuckled. That old man raising a child. Not amusing in the slightest. Kadia timidly turned her head towards him, drawing a sharp breath. It seems the Duke really didn't get along with Mr. Hurston, but that's the Duke's personal business. Please spare me, Jimmy said with a forced laugh, clapping his hands to ease the tension as he saw the atmosphere grow strained. Now, everyone, please look away. Miss Kadia, aside from Mr. Hurston, do you have any other family, like parents or relatives? Kadia turned to answer no. Jimmy continued. Did Mr. Hurston ever mention a will while he was alive? Kadia, search your memories. It's not like my grandpa ever said, clean up and I'll give you this house, right? Hesitantly, she answered, no. Jimmy pressed further. Then, did he leave behind any items or documents that could serve as proof? Kadia shook her head, denying it. No. He asked again for confirmation. He really didn't leave anything behind. Kadia's eyes widened with suspicion. Why is he asking such questions? There really isn't anything. Jimmy slapped his own face in frustration. All right, last question. Mr. Hurston never told you about a certain sword, did he? Kadia cried out in alarm. Sword. Immediately realizing her mistake, she covered her mouth with her hand. Oh dear, he told me I could only say yes or no. The Duke, holding a piece of paper, addressed Kadia. Now it's my turn to ask Orange. Please answer in narrative form. Gust is the Blasco family's magic sword. Faced with the Duke's pronouncement, Kadia froze, astonishment seizing her. Gust was the Blasco family's magic sword, or more accurately, the name of the demon sealed within it. The sword's true name remained a secret, undisclosed to outsiders. Confusion swirled within Kadia. How am I supposed to answer this? He never told her. But in her past life, she'd read about it in a book. She couldn't say that, though. Seeing Kadia frozen like a statue, the Duke repeated his question. I ask again. You inherited Gust, the Blasco family heirloom and relic of the Astroka Empire, from my father, correct? Her face drained of color, pale as parchment. Her head shook in a frantic, repetitive denial. No, it's completely false that I possess the magic sword. At her answer, the Duke merely sneered. Then how do you explain the contents of this will? Kadia's hands clutched the will, her eyes tracing over every word inscribed upon it. According to this will, I leave all of my inheritance to Kadia Ainsley, the girl I raised for a long time in the name of Hurston and Fernanda Blasco. At the same time, I grant her legal ownership of the cursed magic sword. That's it. That's all the will says. All objections are overruled. Having read this far, Kadia froze, unsure how to explain. A tremor of fear began to course through her. What is this? Isn't Gust a heirloom that can only be passed down to the head of the Blasco family? The Duke's voice took on a mesmerizing quality. It seems my father intended to hand over the entire family to you. Kadia felt bewildered, sweat trickling down her face. If this continues, I'll die here. The Duke's gaze was fierce, pinning her in place. Now, what do you think? Orange. A chilling aura of menace seemed to emanate from his entire being. Confronted with the Duke's terrifying, ogre-like expression, Kadia lost control of her emotions and began to cry. Seeing the girl seemingly sobbing, he grew even more irritated, bellowing, "Why are you crying? Who should be whimpering here, brat?" Jimmy stepped in to speak up for her. "Oh, my goodness. Don't glare at the child like that. Miss Kadia, what's wrong?" The Duke, enraged, pointed at Jimmy. "What? Whose side are you on?" He responded boldly, without hesitation, "Miss Kadia's. She's adorable." So an argument ensued. The Duke stubbornly questioned, "Adorable is everything. Are you sure?" His anger didn't shake Jimmy's resolve. He replied confidently, "Yes." Kadia stood outside, eavesdropping on the two men's argument. After a period of back-and-forth bickering, the Duke, seemingly finding some sense in Jimmy's words, gritted his teeth and clutched his head in exasperation. "Fine, I have a headache. Both of you get out quickly." Jimmy happily rushed over to soothe Kadia's fears. "I'll take you to your bedroom, Miss Kadia, to the luxurious room." Jimmy produced a pouch and offered it to Kadia. "Here, please take this. This is the reserve fund left to you by the late Duke." She took the pouch, her curiosity piqued. "It's so heavy. How much money is in here?" Jimmy replied with a smile, 50 gold coins. She held a small fortune in her hands. Kadia could only stare dumbfounded. 50 gold coins, so I could buy 1.25 million loaves of bread with this bag of gold. Jimmy then brought out another intriguing item to present to Kadia. "Please accept this as well. This is the pass used by the former head of the family. It's connected to the safe deposit box at the central bank. Due to the remaining injunction, it can't be used yet, but please keep it for now. You can invest it." Kadia was mesmerized by this unique item, a pass that resembled a modern black card. "Right, so it looks like this." Jimmy kindly advised her, "If you need anything else, please feel free to instruct the servants. Also, despite his appearance, the Duke is warm-hearted, so please don't mind what happened earlier too much." Kadia replied like an understanding little girl, "I'm fine." It seemed that, in her eyes, those matters were trivial. As long as she had money and a black card, such things were nothing. After a long and tiring day, filled with so many events, Kadia finally lay down on the soft bed, but her thoughts continued to race. Everything is fine, except for the magic sword. Those who worship the magic sword live short lives. This is because, as they become the strongest swordsmen through the demon's power within the sword, they gradually lose their minds and assimilate with the demon. Therefore, before the soul is completely corrupted, the taboo of the Blasco family, which influences the sword's owner, brings death even sooner. The shortest lifespan among them is only 10 years, and the longest doesn't exceed 30. In any case, the successors of the Blasco family have undergone decades of training. To survive, Mr. Hurston possessed powerful mental strength. Because he never borrowed Gust's power, he was able to live a long life. But I'm a defenseless person. How can I inherit the magic sword? I'll be possessed by the demon during the inheritance ceremony. In the end, I'm destined to die young. Kadia cried, tossing and turning in her bed. No, if I die young, what's the use of having money? Claudius. On the first morning in the castle, the Duke's room door was suddenly flung open, and Claudius's voice echoed. Your Grace, I give up. Something like the magic sword, just trying to pick it up, is unbearable. The Duke, whose name was Luther, sighed and called out to her, Hey, Orange, don't you remember saying something like this before? His question surprised Kadia. Luther immediately presented the evidence. It's written here in the will, notarized by the Magic Administration. He held the will and decisively tore it in half in front of Kadia. But somehow, the shredded pieces gathered together and then automatically reassembled into a complete sheet. Just like before, Duke Luther told Kadia, see, you can't give it up. She immediately thought of an idea. Then, why don't you give it to me first, and then I'll designate the next successor? Luther asked, do you not know what it means to designate the next successor of Gust? His words made Kadia suddenly realize, oh no, wouldn't that mean I become a soul? The Duke grinned and said, if you want to meet the Grim Reaper, go ahead. I won't stop you. Hearing these threatening words, Kadia quickly abandoned her previous idea. No, absolutely not. The Duke threw the will on the table and instructed her. If that's the case, then don't worry and wait patiently. I'm still thinking about what to do with you. Kadia put on a pitiful expression and asked the Duke, you're not going to execute me, are you? I even took care of Grandpa's life before he passed away. Luther coldly retorted, so what? What happens next depends on what you do. So Kadia immediately listed several of her merits. I'm good at many things: cleaning, calculating income and expenses, and I can even peel an apple into the shape of a swan. Hearing Kadia's unusual talents, Duke Luther could only stare blankly in helplessness. As long as you're obedient, get along with everyone, don't cause trouble, and be kind-hearted, I'll give you a chance to take a test. She asked doubtfully, a test? Luther roughly kicked her out of the room, saying, yes, now don't just stand there, get out. Go to the dining hall and find some delicious fruit to eat, Orange. Kadia stood outside, trying to compose herself, then dragged her feet like a zombie down the hallway. I'm definitely going to die. Is he letting me have my last meal? Another night in the castle, Kadia lay in bed with a gloomy expression. Grandpa, do you really not hate me? Why are you putting me through this torment? Your name is engraved on this pendant. Kadia, this is a trace of your parents. What kind of people were Kadia's parents? I'm curious. I miss you so much. If I had known this would happen, I would have been more filial to you. Kadia wiped the tears from her face. Why am I suddenly crying? Suddenly, she felt something strange. Huh? Why is my hand so hot? The pendant around Kadia's neck suddenly emitted a dazzling light. Seeing this strange phenomenon for the first time, she became very confused. What's happening? The shell-shaped pendant suddenly opened. Inside, it held something that radiated a dazzling light. Kadia's eyes widened, bewildered by the strange phenomenon. She lay in a luxurious, opulent room, only to be transported in mere seconds to a dilapidated space. Just moments ago, I was in a bedroom. Where is this? It's so cramped. Kadia pounded fearfully on the wooden wall in front of her. Is anyone there? Hello? Suddenly, the lid flew open and her face drained of color. Kadia sat up, her eyes darting around in a panic. What is this? What just grabbed me? This is a 21st century room. Wait, that's a modern object. Wasn't I in a novel's world? What's appearing? A typewriter, a notice board emitting an intensely bright light, shining directly onto Kadia. Words appeared on the system screen. Do you want to continue? Kadia hesitated for a long moment. Continue what? Other clues gradually revealed themselves. Our present is like magic. Chapter 1, Section 68, she deduced, playing detective. Chapter 1, Section 68? How is that possible? I last read up to Chapter 1, Section 67, and that novel has been on indefinite hiatus at Chapter 1, Section 67. Chapter 1, Section 68 might be on the author's laptop, but this screen is identical to the novel app one used to read. This space is clearly not the Duke's mansion either. If so, could this be a passage connecting the world of my previous life and the world of the novel? Just like those fantasy novel tropes. If this is true, then I've been living as Kadia for 10 years. Maybe this is the author releasing a new chapter after I left. So, can I find out what happens next? After a brief moment of celebration, Kadia felt a pang of disappointment. I wasn't mentioned in the original story. Even so, there's important content to refer to, right? The future of Blasco, or maybe check out the next chapter, what happens to Niella, the female protagonist. Finally, at the last moment, Niella began to walk towards the top of the Soul Tower. As long as I can save Achilles and obtain the magic sword, it will all be over. Crystal clear. Tears welled up in Niella's eyes. Finally, I can escape this disgusting Blasco. Reading this, Kadia jumped up and cheered for Niella. Go save the male lead and deal with Blasco. That's it. However, the images of Grandpa Hurston and Duke Luther flashed through Kadia's mind. She suddenly realized her words were a bit inconsiderate. Dealing with Blasco, this is the satisfaction I've always longed for. Why do I feel so strange? Finally, only the last door remained before Niella. But at the end of the altar stood a figure she hadn't expected. Her protector and lover, Achilles, had been completely consumed and absorbed by the magic sword. Niella ran towards him joyfully. Achilles, you're already here? You escaped the demonic outbreak? When? Achilles said gravely. I just want to ask you one question, Niella. He took out a letter and asked, do you know this woman? Kadia froze for 5 seconds. As she read the text, the woman Achilles mentioned was none other than Kadia Ainsley. What shocked her even more was that the novel abruptly ended with no next page. Kadia panicked. What? Why is my name appearing here? Unable to accept this cruel reality, Kadia stubbornly swiped up, down, left, and right, trying to find the next chapter. No matter how much she pressed, no more content appeared. Let's find a way to get out of here first. All sorts of doom seemed to be befalling her. Kadia collapsed onto the floor in despair. What is this? There isn't a single door in this room. Am I supposed to leave through where I came in? A thumping sound echoed in the room. It turned out that Kadia had crawled back into the wooden box placed in the center of the room. What if I can't get out? I can't meet my grandparents in a place like this. Kadia began to pray with her hands clasped together. Grandpa, Mom, Dad, I haven't met the gods of heaven and earth yet, please. It actually worked. She was back in the room from the novel. Kadia was so overjoyed, she almost burst into tears. I'm back. I thought I was going to die there, with no way out. What is this rocket pendant? And how did Achilles, trapped in a magic sword, get out, as I saw in chapter 1, verse 68? Compared to that, why is the name of an insignificant side character appearing here? A new day arrived, and the dawn light streamed through the window into Kadia's room. Yawning, Kadia sat up. I'm so tired. I spent the whole night until dawn, going back and forth hundreds of times in that space that opens and closes with the necklace. But no matter how hard I searched for the latter half of chapter 1, verse 68, I couldn't find anything. Luckily, I could still see the previous chapters and read them all in one go. I also learned what the Duke's test is when it comes to deciding major and minor affairs of the Blasco family. A family meeting is held, summoning both direct and collateral relatives. When choosing a representative or a suitable candidate, they must pass this meeting and take a qualification exam. Niella, while helping with the housework on the day of the current Duke Ludius Blasco's inheritance, unexpectedly resonated with the magic sword. Then, in the meeting discussing what to do with her, this became the Blasco family's biggest concern, and she had to take the test to join. Kadia started to feel nervous. In my case, will there be a test at the family meeting? If I don't get this opportunity, I'll be cruelly murdered. That's the most effective way to invalidate the notarized will. Niella also went through a lot of trouble to get a test voucher for the family meeting. Kadia became melancholic. Why is my future so similar to hers? Suddenly, a hypothesis popped into Kadia's mind. Could it be that I become Niella's replacement? To be more certain about the current developments, Kadia reread the original text about Niella's first entry into the family. It'll be next autumn. The timing doesn't match. Besides, Niella has nothing to do with the will at all, so Kadia could be sure she wasn't the female protagonist. Just as she finished her reasoning, Kadia was pulled back into the world of the novel by the necklace. She collapsed onto the bed in surprise. So, the entry time is limited. Kadia estimated that the necklace only recharges every 6 hours, so she couldn't enter again for the time being. Furthermore, when she was inside the pendant, time outside seemed to stop completely. Kadia didn't understand what this necklace was. Was it the author's unconscious state, or some kind of structure within the cerebral cortex? But none of this felt quite right. Kadia didn't understand why the male protagonist would suddenly come looking for her. Could she become an important character in this world? But she knew, first and foremost, that her fate was in the author's hands. In another dimension, at this moment, Kadia could only pray to God. Whatever nonsense they wrote, please don't write her as Niella's enemy. The next morning, the servants prepared a table full of food as Kadia requested. As soon as she saw the delicious food, her eyes lit up like car headlights, and she thanked the chef happily. In truth, it was just because she was starving, but to maintain her dignity, Kadia put on a pitiful act with her top-notch acting skills. She said these were dishes the late Duke often made for her, and now, suddenly seeing this, she missed him so much that tears welled up. The chef was moved and promised to try even harder. Claudia listened, as if a banner in her stomach had unfurled, lost in thought. Suddenly, another voice interrupted, telling him to just do his best. It turned out to be Duke Luther. He looked at her askance and said, "It seems you've adapted to this mansion quite well. Do you think it will be yours soon? Dream on." Claudia was so frightened that she had to dim her headlights, but in her heart, she still showed resistance. In fact, as long as the will remained valid, this house was hers. The Duke glared at Kadia. "Is it because you're adaptable, or because my father raised you like that you really think the sky's the limit?" Kadia was puzzled and stealthily looked up at the other party's attitude, asking, "Should I be afraid of you?" Duke Luther sat at the dining table opposite her, replying coldly, "You don't have to." This pleased Kadia. After all, she was wealthy, and knowing what the future held, why should she be afraid? Yet, the Duke's expression still intimidated her. Luther looked her up and down, then said with a smirk, "Seeing how cunning you are, I'm sure you'll be able to survive in this cruel society. Should I kick you out right now and leave you penniless?" Kadia instantly felt a chill and began to sweat. Putting on a practiced, professional smile, she replied, "My stomach is quite weak, so I might not be able to. Someone like me can only survive by eating well and dressing nicely." Seeing her beating around the bush, Duke Luther snapped, "Cut the crap and eat." Kadia immediately complied. Meanwhile, the Duke continued to observe her with scrutinizing eyes. Suddenly, he asked a question that startled her. "Did my father cook for you?" Kadia instantly confirmed this. Actually, it was more like he bought food for her. Upon hearing this, Luther fell into deep thought. A few speculations crossed his mind, but he clicked his tongue dismissively. This left Kadia unsure of what to say next, or perhaps she should inquire about the family. With that in mind, she recounted what she knew. Sometimes he would talk about his children. He said the two of you had a big fight, so he left home. "Could you tell me why you two fought?" As soon as Kadia finished speaking, she was met with the Duke's death glare. "Can I take that back?" Kadia hurriedly tried to salvage the situation. "I don't know much about it, but he seemed to miss you very much, and that's how he left his family." Kadia remembered how lonely he seemed when he talked about his family, and perhaps part of the reason he raised her was because of his longing for his own children. But Kadia was still puzzled. If Duke Luther had received news of his father's impending death, he should have at least visited him once, right? Luther, seemingly noticing Kadia's pensive gaze, asked, "Why are you looking at me like that? My father abandoned the Blasco family, and I was the one left behind. It's not a void that can be filled with a single visit." Kadia thought, bewildered. "So, to Duke Blasco, my existence is like the 300,010,001 debt my previous life's father owed, like an unexpected inheritance left by irresponsible parents." The Duke sighed. "A cruel man who abandoned his family and went into hiding. There's nothing I can do about it." Kadia felt helpless about this father-son pair. "I wish I could be like you, able to let go so easily." Suddenly, a wave of frustration washed over her, and Kadia slammed the table, greatly agitated. Just thinking about her past life made her blood boil. Do you really want to grab him by the collar, shake him up and down, and curse at him? Or do you want to make him disappear completely? Tear him to shreds? Her frenzy even startled Luth, who remarked that it wasn't that serious. Kadia awkwardly wiped her mouth with a napkin and continued, "Don't worry. Once the inheritance issue is resolved, I'll be leaving soon." The The Duke found himself slightly intrigued by this girl. He assessed, "Your attitude has changed quite a bit in one evening. Do you have any ambitions?" Kadia frankly stated her desire. "My ambition has been quite ordinary from the start, which is your 3-story building in Telfar. I only need that." Locke took the opportunity to tease. "That dilapidated wooden shack, as small as a nostril. What can you do with it? Can you even stretch your legs when you lie down?" Kadia replied with a laugh. "There's still enough room for 30 kids like me." She secretly thought, "This CEO probably has no idea how much it costs to rent a carriage." He responded with a smile as bright as sunshine. "I guess you're really not afraid of me. The first time we met, you were trembling like a leaf." Kadia was taken aback. She hadn't expected such a beautiful smile from the sinister Duke. She grew bolder and shared, "Although it was scary, you are my father's son. The bedroom is beautiful, the food is delicious, and you didn't hit me." At the mention of hit you, Luther slammed the table in anger. "Hit you? Where were you hit? Did my father hit you?" Kadia waved her hands dismissively, flustered. "No, never." She was actually referring to her stepfather from her previous life. That was the source of her fear, but the Duke wasn't like that. Composing himself, Duke Luther stated, "I have no fondness for yelling, hitting, or harming children." Kadia grew pensive. She knew it was obvious, yet she felt a strange sense of relief. But if she didn't pass the test, she would be in danger. Duke Luther explained that the Blasco family was very fond of tests. Whenever they needed to choose a representative for anything, they would first test the candidate's abilities. They didn't just want someone competent. They sought the most suitable elite. The collateral relatives had told him to immediately summon them to deal with Kadia's situation. It was truly troublesome and quite mad. In short, the Duke emphasized that Kadia was in a very difficult position. Nervously clutching her skirt, Kadia timidly asked, "Then, could you give me a chance, Your Grace? I don't want to be harmed. That would be too unfair to me. Even my father wouldn't want that." Taking a deep breath, she declared with newfound resolve, "So, I also want to participate in the test." Duke Luther tapped his fingers on the table, hesitant. At the family meeting, the most influential people are the direct descendants, as they hold the final decision-making power. The Blasco family currently has 3 direct descendants, including his children, the Duke, young Master Werner, and young Lady Iron. Duke Luther informed her, "The meeting will be held in 15 days. Before then, you should try to persuade Werner and Iron. If you can get them on your side, I will help." Kadia, her spirits lifting, eagerly asked, "Then, how will you help me?" Adjusting his cloak, he replied, "I will steer the atmosphere of the meeting to allow you to participate in the successor test. That way, you might gain more time during the test. If, during that time, the deceased Duke's soul awakens, we could try discussing changing the successor with Hurston." Kadia's eyes gleamed. That's right, if only he were here. With an air of newfound confidence, Kadia assured him that she would first persuade the direct descendants of Blasco and try to qualify for the successor test. The Duke added, "If you understand, then don't waste your food, all right, little tangerine?" Kadia readily obeyed and proceeded to eat with gusto. Suddenly, the Duke leaned forward and poked her puffed-out cheek with his finger. Both of them froze for a few seconds, lost in thought. Continuing to pinch her cheek, Duke Luther remarked, "I think I understand why my father took you in." Kadia was taken aback. "What do you mean?" He chuckled, calling her a little monster. Rubbing her pinched cheek, Kadia grumbled, "That kind of teasing just like him. Are you afraid people won't know you're his son?" Before leaving, the Duke reminded her that young Master Werner and young Lady Iron would be arriving soon, probably in 3 days. Kadia flinched, the impending deadline weighing heavily on her. Duke Luther added, with a chilling tone, "They aren't as gentle as I am, so be prepared to be slaughtered." At the mention of this impending 8th trial, the utensils in Kadia's hands clattered to the table. "Who's gentle here, old man?" Duke Luther carefully reminded Kadia to keep quiet and not tell anyone about their conversation or about the deceased Duke before turning to leave. Kadia's appetite vanished. According to the original story, the young master and young lady wouldn't appear until the middle of the story. She hadn't expected to meet them so soon. Perhaps they had heard about her and returned early to interrogate her. In the original story, they were even more terrifying than the Duke. Both had personality disorders, neither one less severe than the other. The young lady, in particular, tormented Niella, treating her as a sparring partner and using Niella's visible fear as an excuse for her prolonged bullying. As for the young master, He was the type to be indifferent to everything, and their common ground was their shared dislike for incompetence. Kadia's first thought was that she shouldn't show fear when standing before them. She had to be strong. There were 3 days left, and within that time, she had to devise a plan. After returning to his private quarters that day, Duke Luther kept pondering his conversation with Kadia. He hadn't expected to encounter such a brazen child. In his eyes, she was so small, yet she clung fiercely to every chance for survival. So young, yet so worldly. He still couldn't fathom how she'd carved the apple into the shape of a swan, but in short, it seemed the late Duke had also possessed a keen eye, which was why he devised such a plan. He figured that no matter how powerful the collateral branches were, they still had to obey the head of the family. Even if he exerted his authority, no one would object. However, Luther wondered how this orange would approach the 2 cheetahs, Werner and Iron. These two always had childish temperaments and were constantly at odds. Could Kadia win their favor with a courteous attitude? Overall, the situation seemed a bit tense. Luther gently rang the bell to summon Jimmy and instructed him, if Werner and Iron return, send Keith to keep an eye on them and prevent them from harming Kadia. Once the order was given, Luther was left in disbelief. I can't believe I'm actually worried about my 2 siblings harming someone in my own house. Not long after, on a fine day, Claudia was walking down the hallway when a sudden loud crash startled her. Although she didn't know what had happened, in such a situation, it was best to hide first. It turned out to be the dramatic entrance of the 2 cheetahs. 17-year-old young Master Werner, one of the 7 light divine power users in the Empire, was a strong contender to succeed Duke Blasco. 15-year-old young Lady Iron, a genius in alchemy, had earned the title of Imperial Master. The weapons she crafted daily set sales records. Although they possessed talent and noble blood, even considered prime examples of geniuses thriving in adversity. The problem lay in their cheap, eccentric personalities. Following the young master's unique door-breaking entrance, young Lady Iron asked in surprise, "The door isn't broken? It's magically reinforced?" "Amazing," young Master Werner chuckled. "That's because you were clinging to the door and making a fuss." "I had no choice." Iron sighed, then quipped, "Better than that idiot brother who has hands but uses his feet to kick the door." Werner immediately retorted, "Why can't I use my feet, you incompetent sister?" He then grabbed a servant of the mansion by the collar, and despite the servant's pleas of innocence, Werner threw him to the ground and declared self-righteously, "The mansion is full of spies, yet someone locked themselves in the forge. I couldn't ignore it. He seems like a pawn sent by the royal family. Make him confess who sent him." Iron expressed her displeasure again, scolding her brother for putting on airs. Under Kadia's astonished gaze, the 2 siblings engaged in a heated squabble. Didn't they say they wouldn't be back for 3 days? What am I supposed to do if they're back today? The butler bowed respectfully to them and announced, "Young master, young lady, you have arrived." Iron complained, "Why did you put me second? You should address the young lady first, then the young master." Werner walked past indifferently. "I'm not going in with her anyway. I'll take a bath first, then go see the Duke." "Understood." The butler became nervous, hesitantly saying, "But, young master, the Duke said that if you returned, I should summon you immediately, as it concerns the matter of inheritance." However, before he could finish, Werner interrupted him viciously. "I said I'm taking a bath first, then coming over. Do you have any objections?" The butler paled and could only obey the order, not daring to utter another word. Iron sighed openly, criticizing her brother's behavior. She spoke to the butler, her voice bubbling with excitement. "But you should also tell him that I'll be stopping by the blacksmith's before I come. I'm just here to say hello. Let's go sharpen the sword. Geist will have a proper sword befitting his status." Iron then gleefully dashed outside to play before the butler could even attempt to stop her. The other servants in the mansion could only curse inwardly, not daring to utter a single comment. Kadia, witnessing the unique behavior of these 2 cheetahs, thought to herself incessantly, "I'm doomed." In her mind, if she carelessly approached those 2, she would surely be trampled, unable to get a word in edgewise. "First, I have to scout things out." Thinking this, Kadia slipped away like a wisp of smoke. If she gathered information, she was certain she could find a solution. However, karmic retribution is hard to avoid. As Kadia ran past the door in front of her, it suddenly opened, startling her into a jump. The person who walked out was the malevolent young Master Werner. Kadia froze in fear, her mind racing, unsure whether she should greet him or not. Werner, remaining placid, ushered her into the room. "Too slow. Go in and prepare the bathwater. Check the temperature of the towels and everything else. Kadia stood dumbfounded, utterly bewildered, completely unaware of what was happening, so she could only comply. According to the original story, when Niella first arrived here, Werner subjected her to terrible indignities, after which he constantly found excuses to make trouble for Niella. If she didn't clean everything within 3 minutes, she would be severely punished. Kadia glanced up at the clock and saw that more than 30 seconds had already passed. If she didn't hurry, she was dead. He was bullying her the moment he arrived. There was no helping it. She could only roll up her sleeves and get to work. Cleaning and tidying were her professions, regardless. Not long after, Werner coldly asked. She polished the bathtub until it gleamed like a mirror, so much so that even the fastidious Werner had to commend her for being quite diligent in her studies. He waved his hand, commanding, "While I bathe, clean this place. Not a speck of dust is to remain." Kadia obediently accepted the order. Kadia remembered that in the original story, Werner would bathe for approximately 20 minutes. As she laundered the towels, she expressed her resolve. "Just take a good bath in there and primp yourself. I'll do my best." Sure enough, 20 minutes later, when Werner emerged, the room was spotless and sparkling. Werner looked around and then asked for her name. She immediately replied, "Kadia Ainsley, young master." He continued, "I like your nimble nature. You seem neither frightened nor obtuse." Kadia gave a professional smile and said, "Please." She felt a bit apprehensive. Just because of that, he had taken a liking to her. Niella hadn't gained any favor in 5 years. This can't be this easy. Is there some ulterior motive, or is he testing me? Werner asked again, "How long have you been here?" Kadia quickly replied, "Today is the 4th day." "Young master." Werner uttered a strange sentence. "For days." You must have seen that guy's face, right? Before Kadia could react, she saw Werner's sharp gaze. That swindler, the one who showed up and swept away 2/3 of the Blasco family's fortune in one go. Kadia felt faint. She thought he knew she was the heir and had come to torment her, but he mistook her for a servant. Werner continued, "What does he look like?" "I heard he looks like a shriveled plum picked up on the way home." "A plum, right?" The plum, standing before him, could only fidget with the table awkwardly. "I heard he looks gentle." How could Kadia dare to say that the plum was herself? Dreadful, no ambition, and too insightful. Werner suddenly laughed. "That vicious fellow made my grandfather write such a will. He can't be without ambition." Then he slammed his teacup down, snatching things from others without lifting a finger, without paying any price. How pathetic. Kadia's blood pressure nearly exploded. She desperately replied, "It seems that person had no other choice." Werner responded, "That's right, if it has the Magic Management Bureau's seal. This can't be undone, so rather than tearing up the will, we simply need to get rid of the heir." The venomous words were spoken calmly, and Kadia nearly wet herself in terror. Werner, seemingly oblivious to Kadia's near collapse, continued to muse, "If things have come to this, he must be trying to oppose me. Perhaps he isn't an ordinary person. I don't know how he managed to charm grandfather, but however he did it, I'll interrogate him. If he truly is a fraud, I'll kick him out. If he's connected to the royal family, he must be dealt with, leaving no trace." Kadia's heart leaped in her throat. Suddenly, Werner turned to her and asked, "Have you spoken to that fox?" Frozen in fear, she softly replied, "Yes." Werner continued, "If it's a cute girl like you, he'll let his guard down. Try to get close to him, become friends, and then keep an eye on him. See if he has any ulterior motives." Kadia knew this was a setup. She tried to plead, "I'm timid, so I can't take on such a difficult task, young master." Contrary to her nervousness, Werner seemed relaxed. "You're the first servant who's spoken clearly to me for a full 10 minutes. You're also the first girl who's dared to stare at me like that. You don't seem timid at all. I like kids like you." His smile gave her a momentary sense of relief. "I gained something? His favor?" The young master liked strong, straightforward people. Werner simply asked, "Will you do it or not?" Kadia had no way out, so she decided to gamble. If it's come to this, gaining his trust is already done. Now, I just need to pretend to be his servant to build rapport. If I'm found out later, I won't be kicked out, but given some secret mission, right? Kadia boldly accepted Werner's command. He expressed satisfaction and replied, "Good. You're a strong kid. I like that. Now eat this. You're too skinny. Can you even work?" As he spoke, Werner tossed Kadia a piece of cake. Seeing the food, she immediately thanked him with enthusiasm. Werner smiled confidently. "Well, if you do a good job, I'll give you more rewards." Kadia screamed internally, "I don't need money. Just give me a life extension ticket." The door creaked open. Jameson was talking talking to the gatekeeper. The man noticed Kadia. "You're up early, Mississippi. What brings you to this dangerous place so early in the morning?" It was Knight Geist, the Duke's guard. Kadia greeted him cheerfully. "Good morning." "Same to you." "I came to greet the Duke." Geist's eyes welled up with emotion. "Oh my goodness. Someone finally came to greet the Duke." The sound reached those inside the room. "Geist, take the girl to the dining room for breakfast." Kadia exclaimed. "His ears are good." She still called out, "Good morning, Duke. May I have breakfast with you?" Luther refused. "I don't eat. You eat." Kadia put on a sullen expression. "Eating alone is lonely and sad. We used to eat together." Luther frowned at these words. Geist added, "Duke, you didn't eat last night either. You've been holed up in your study." Jimmy chimed in. "That's right. You've been working for 3 nights straight. You have to make time to eat." Kadia rejoiced silently. "Thank you, everyone." Luther replied, "I don't have time for breakfast, Kadia. Eat by yourself." She hesitated. "Well, if that's the case," she muttered to herself. "It's time, isn't it?" A table laden with food was wheeled in. The head chef announced loudly, "Duke, we cannot overlook your irregular eating habits. It is a negligence of our duties." Luther couldn't help but be startled. "No one in this house is on my side, are they?" Kadia continued to coax. "Let's eat here together, Duke. The dishes look absolutely delicious." Luther asked her, "Can't you eat by yourself?" Kadia replied, "Yes, because I'm still young." She looked at Luther. "Are you very busy?" He had been looking at documents that whole time. Suddenly, he asked, "It seems gaining Werner and Iron's favor is going quite smoothly, isn't it? Now you're noticing me too." Kadia gulped nervously. She stammered, "It's just my way, even though I was mistaken for a servant." But Luther said that when you meet those two, you must be with an adult, and if the atmosphere is bad, run away immediately, she said naively. "Run here," he replied. "That's right, don't rush in and get hurt." She chuckled softly. "It seems you feel guilty for making me stay with those children." Yet, she still heeded his words. "Yes, I'll run away if I'm scared." Luther watched her with satisfaction. "Good." He suddenly reached out and patted Kadia's head. "If you've finished eating, go out." Kadia placed her hand on her head, surprised. He waited for me to finish eating. He was unexpectedly kind at times. If I had a father, I wonder if it would feel like this. Outside in the hallway, the maid, Margaret, was standing outside, speaking to Kadia. "The young master is at the training grounds." Kadia inquired, "The training grounds? Can I go there?" Margaret thought for a moment. "The young master is very focused when he trains, so it's best not to go. Even so, since you say you want to see, I'll accompany you." Kadia was overjoyed. "Thank you, Margaret." They walked towards the training grounds. "The air is so hot, like hundreds of needles pricking my skin." She looked into the distance, a terrifying sight of green or something swirling. Kadia tugged at Margaret's skirt. "I want to go back. That green thing hurts me." The aura was getting closer to her. She screamed. Margaret scooped her up. "Hold on tight, miss." With that, the maid lifted her, soaring off the ground. Margaret isn't an ordinary maid, Kadia thought. The wrists and ankles, those are training clothes. They landed quickly. Blasco is truly extraordinary. Margaret sighed in relief. What a troublesome thing. You're surprised, aren't you? But this happens every day. Kadia was indeed terrified. What was that? She looked at the completely cracked ground. Everything is destroyed. What kind of training is this? If hit, even a bear would die in one blow. She broke out in a cold sweat. It seems there was someone else besides Werner. Damn it, the voice was Iron's. Kadia looked at her with admiration. It's Iron. Looking closely, she's truly a beauty. Werner looked at her and said, "You can't fight me like that, Iron. You're not putting any effort into your training at all." Iron yelled in frustration. "Shut up, you bastard, you good for nothing. You used reinforcement magic, didn't you? Or did someone force you to eat that stuff?" Bastard. Margaret covered Kadia's ears. "Don't listen to those foul words. You'll go deaf." Kadia managed a weak smile. Her mouth isn't very nice, is it? About 3 years ago, Iron was considered an excellent swordswoman. On parle Werner. But even with martial arts ability, injuries were inevitable. Because her right shoulder was fractured from wielding a sword, the gap between Werner and Iron grew wider. After that, Iron tried to hide her injury, which forced her to change direction and strengthen her weaponry. Now, at only 15 years old, she holds an important position in Blasco's metallurgy field. That's the information I confirmed from the pendant. But she seems to be passionate about tactics. The way she attacks shows exceptional skill. Just then, Iron was struck down by Werner in one blow. He approached and said, "Physical training is very important, Iron. Exposing your right side like that limits your range of motion. If you only hold a sword with your left hand and leave your right hand empty, It's easy to pierce an artery. Kadia was horrified. Oh no, is this the biting dog personality again? He clearly knows about Iron's injury, yet he says that. Iron looked at him with extreme displeasure. Margaret was also worried. Kadia asked her, "Sister, why is the atmosphere so strange?" Margaret replied, "It's like this. That lady was once injured, but the young master doesn't know because the lady said she would punish anyone who found out. So their relationship became this bad." Kadia broke out in a cold sweat. "Werner, you're so insensitive. How could you not know? But honestly, if it's Iron's pride, she wouldn't reveal her pain at a time like this." Werner added, "Don't just focus on strengthening your weapon. You need to strengthen your own power and speed too. At this rate, even in 10 years, you won't be able to beat me." Iron didn't listen. "Cut it out," she muttered. "This is so frustrating." She turned and walked away. Watching her retreating figure, Kadia felt a pang of regret. Werner, seemingly thinking in his own twisted way, had just hammered a painful blow to Iron's pride. The relationship between the two of them, perhaps the most brutal among the direct descendants of Blasco, seemed irrevocably strained. Margaret said worriedly, "The training is over, but it might be difficult to see the young master right away. The fallout from the Oro incident hasn't settled yet, and you might get caught in the crossfire." Kadia asked, "Then could I perhaps see the lady?" Margaret grimaced. "Lady Arno? I don't think that's a good idea either. It's just, she seemed to be in a lot of pain," Kadia said. "Can I just see her from a distance?" Margaret looked at her with a touch of sympathy. "So, you're worried about the lady? Then let's go," she said, scooping Kadia up into her arms again. "Hold on tight, Mississippi. You're unexpectedly sweet." Margaret rose onto her tiptoes and took flight. From above, the two of them watched as a physician trailed after Iron, pleading, "My lady, please let me examine you quickly. What if you tore a muscle?" Iron snapped back. "I said I'm fine. I know my own body best." Kadia frowned. Just looking at her, you can tell her shoulder is hurting terribly. Her face is so pale. She really doesn't look well. Suddenly, Iron shouted, "Absolutely do not let my father or Werner know about my condition. If this rumor spreads, you're fired, understand? Leon." He reluctantly obeyed, and then Iron dismissed him. Margaret fidgeted. "I'm so worried. Her stubbornness isn't going to do her any good. Anyway, it'll probably be difficult to see either of them today. Everyone's in a foul mood. Perhaps you'd like to do something else?" Kadia looked at her bright face. "Something else?" Margaret offered some examples, like touring the gardens here or the exhibition rooms. There's plenty to see. Savannah has a lot to see, too. It's just north of the estate. Kadia thought of the place, gloomy and shadowed. Savannah, I don't like that place at all. Then a thought struck her. "What I'd like to do," she declared with uncharacteristic excitement, "is go shopping. It should be all right for the supposed heir of Blasco to go shopping just once, shouldn't it?" Margaret enthusiastically chimed in. "My lady, where would you like to go? A toy shop? A cake shop? Or perhaps a dress shop? Wherever it is, just tell me." Kadia beamed. "Like that specialty cake shop in Altum. It must be delicious." The thought was tempting, but it was fleeting. "I should maintain my dignity, and only by what's necessary. Besides, I have a perfectly good reason today." She leaned in and spoke softly to Margaret. "Sister, I'd like to go to the apothecary." Margaret was surprised. "The apothecary?" She asked for confirmation. "Yes, the largest apothecary in Altum." Margaret's worry deepened. "Are you unwell somewhere? There's always a physician on duty at the mansion. Please tell me if anything's the matter." Kadia quickly waved her hands. "No, I'm not sick. It's that herbal concoction he taught me back then. I was still wondering why I'd ever need such a thing. He told me I should learn it properly, so I could make a living on my own after my allowance ran out. Who knew I'd need it like this?" Grandfather's predictions were truly accurate. The door opened, and Kadia was greeted as she stepped inside. "Welcome to Lilliband Apothecary." "Just a moment. Young miss, I'm a bit busy. What can I get for you?" Kadia's eyes lit up. Gesturing grandly around the shop, she declared, "I'll take it all. I've always wanted to say that." Dusk settled over the castle. Luther asked, "Have all the branch family members been summoned?" Jameson sat slumped in his chair. "Yes, I receive replies from everyone today. They'll all be attending." Luther nudged him. "Wake up, Strawberry." Jameson bristled. "I told you I'm not a strawberry. It's childish to make fun of my hair color." He grumbled, "Frankly, you should double my salary. I'm doing the accounts and secretarial work." Luther ignored his complaints. "Stop your nonsense. Are you looking at Orange?" Werner asked. Margaret replied, "Yes, she probably went downtown today." Hearing this, he sat down and thought for a moment. Observing his expression, Margaret thought to herself, "He seems a little softer towards her these days." That's right, indifferent people often care for others in subtle ways. Lost in her internal monologue, Margaret was startled by Werner's sharp voice. Go to work after you finish looking. If the calculations are wrong, your wages will be deducted. She hurriedly obeyed, scurrying off to her tasks. Only Luther left, he thought, so the day is almost over. Perhaps I should go and have a look. He pulled back the curtains, and a curious sight met his eyes. Below were 2 carriages piled high with goods. What is that? Branches peeked out from the mouths of the sacks. Flowers and leaves. It must be Kadia's. I gave her a lot of money, so this is how people show off. Just looking at it makes me happy. Let's go. Let's start creating. The room was plunged into darkness in the blink of an eye. Morning had arrived. Kadia was still hard at work. When did it get bright? She muttered, startled. I'm late. Let's hurry. Food was already laid out on the table. Luther asked, what were you doing yesterday? Kadia hesitated for a moment. Just playing alone in my room. Unexpectedly, he was nibbling on herbs. She gaped. How'd he know? Luther explained, you smell of herbs. It would be strange not to know. Kadia took a cautious bite. Actually, the lady and the young master had a match yesterday. It seems the lady was injured. He was taken aback. Iron? She even dismissed the doctor. Luther said with exasperation, that foolish girl. Who does she think she is? Kadia said, I want to visit her today, then rummaged in her bag. I've also prepared a small gift. Juice made from 200 kinds of herbs. Luther was surprised again. 200? Are you planning to give them all to Iron? She replied excitedly, yes, I'll give them all to the lady. All of them. He turned away. Well, that's certainly a lot. Kadia looked at him quizzically. Is he angry because I didn't give him anything? I knew it. So I prepared this, Duke. When you stay up late, brew this with warm water. It will help you concentrate. Luther blushed. I have some too. What is this? Medicine for fatigue. Kadia's explanation made him recoil. No, it's caffeine. It's a very strong stimulant, not comparable to coffee or tea. A whole week's worth of work from the mountain. Just one day's worth is enough. She didn't get to finish. She was scooped up. Luther unceremoniously kicked her out. Kadia felt wronged. Is he disappointed it's not medicine for fatigue? So picky. Well, it's too difficult. Forget it. I'll go see Iron soon. She arrived at the training grounds. Kadia looked around, just like the descriptions in novels. From a distance, she saw Iron. There she is. It's been a day, but she still seems to be in pain. It seems she hasn't received any treatment. If she continues to endure it alone, it will become a big problem. Kadia approached. She called out, Lady Iron, I brought you something. Iron reacted defensively. Who's there? Kadia jumped. Oh my goodness, you scared me. She bowed her head and presented her gift. These are herbs for swelling and pain relief. You can use them to numb the pain in emergencies. And they're not poisonous. Really, Iron accepted them. Yesterday, I heard someone say there was a wildcat on the roof. It was you, child. Kadia chuckled. So you knew beforehand. Iron frowned. You're a child I've never. A new face that's appeared in the mansion recently. Kadia stared at her, sweating with fear. Suddenly, Iron stood up abruptly. Kadia was astonished. She's so tall. Iron said, You're also that heir he mentioned. You're the heir. Kadia was speechless, finally replying, yes. She introduced herself. My name is Kadia Ainsley. Iron looked at her thoughtfully. She tried applying the herbs to her wound. Effective. Iron commented quietly. Good. Thank you, child. Kadia was overjoyed. With utmost politeness, she curtsied, saying, No, I should be the one thanking you. Breathing a sigh of relief, she added, I thought I was going to be killed or interrogated or something. Iron looked at her with a puzzled expression. Why are you looking at me like that? Kadia asked timidly. Does my lady find me displeasing? Iron replied nonchalantly. How could I possibly find a little mouse like you displeasing? A thought suddenly struck Kadia. Perhaps Werner felt the same. He probably thought she was trying to steal the burst. Kadia's face fell. I overheard the Duke and the young master saying it was the most troublesome issue. I can't just give up my inheritance. Iron sighed, because it's a matter of family honor. But I don't care, just like how Gus can't possibly be mine, Kadia thought. That's right, Arnon was the last one to inherit the magic sword, so her indifference is understandable. Iron continued, well, let's assume the magic sword is fine, but the problem lies with his treasury. It must be filled with all sorts of rare materials, enhancement stones, dwarven crafts, gauntlets, and much more. Suddenly, Iron's eyes widened in anger. I thought he would give it to Father or Werner someday. Don't tell me you're planning to take it all. I don't care what you do with Gust, but that's mine. Grandfather's treasury, understand? I will never let you take it. Astro's treasury is mine. Hearing this, Kadia's eyes lit up. Found it, the key to the strategy. She spoke boldly. Then, my lady, why don't we try making a deal? Iron looked at her, bewildered. Kadia explained, "It's a proposal that can bring a happy ending for both of us. You take my side, so I can participate in the inheritance battle, and protect me, so I can inherit the entire estate." Iron was taken aback. "Child, do you know who you're talking to? I'm a direct descendant of Blasco. You confidently declare you'll take our family's property?" Kadia chuckled softly. "Yes, because there's a will. I am the rightful heir." Iron smiled. "How brave." Kadia's expression turned somber again. "But once I inherit that estate, I know countless enemies will emerge. So I will become your investor." Iron was utterly astonished. "What?" Kadia explained. "When you said you wanted the treasury, as long as it's in my hands, I will find everything my lady desires. Furthermore, I will invest the initial funds in a forge and land in my lady's name. I will support you materially and spiritually." Iron pondered further. "How does this little girl know I want to open a forge? I've never told anyone about this long-held dream." Kadia asked excitedly, "What do you think, elder sister?" "The condition is that I can safely inherit the entire estate." Iron mused. "To achieve that end, we must help this child," Kadia confirmed. After a moment of thought, Iron concluded, "In any case, if it doesn't fall into this child's hands, the treasury will go to father first, and then to me, before Werner. If so, it will take at least another 20 years. Even if it comes into my possession, I'll have to share it with Werner." Kadia held out a scroll. "So there's no harm, right? We must seize this opportunity. Quickly, bring a pen and paper to write the contract." Iron was taken aback. "What? You've already prepared it." Kadia pointed at the paper. "You can sign here, elder sister." Iron was speechless. This contract looks like a child's toy. Children are still children. They think just signing is enough. Kadia was thrilled. "Then we'll go to the administrative office, the Ministry of Justice, and the Magic Management Department for notarization, just like grandfather's will. That way, no one can break it." Iron seemed astonished. "Really? Is she really only 10 years old?" Back at the mansion, Claudia was elated. Everything went well. It passed. Although she said she'd think about it, judging by her expression, I'm sure she's been persuaded. According to the storyline, 5 years from now, Arnold will establish a forge, but the products won't differ much from Blasco's weapons, so it won't attract much attention. Her shame will make Arnold's temper even worse. I'm not sure if the original source material is reliable, but after meeting them, my impression of them is slightly different from the novel. The Duke and Arnold, the servants in the mansion, are all friendly. Daniela also live with the Blasco family like this? Just then, Werner reminded, "It's getting late, child." Kadia grew even more perplexed. Even Werner was different from the original. He said, "Well then, report on today's portion." Kuden noticed his ankle. "Sir, are you injured?" He replied calmly, "Just twisted it while sparring with Iron." She listened with concern. "I thought Werner had an overwhelming advantage. Why didn't you two hold back?" He retorted, irritated. "Hold back? What's that? You must always be prepared to lose your head. What if I underestimated Iron for a moment and she severed my ankle?" Kadia was speechless. Just like in the novel, they truly were siblings with completely opposite personalities. Werner took a sip of tea. Iron is a very skilled swordswoman. With that skill, if she fights with all her might, I must also face her with all my heart. It's basic courtesy between those who dedicate their lives to swordsmanship. Kadia was surprised. I didn't expect him to be so concerned about Iron. Werner looked puzzled. "But it's strange. I don't know since when, but she's been hostile towards me, and I don't know why." Kadia explained, "My lady doesn't hate young master. She's just like young master, always thinking about you." He chuckled. "Right, because no matter what, when death comes, you're still siblings. I was thinking if I win against Iron this time, I'll challenge the Duke. Unfortunately, my ankle is injured. It's obvious she did it on purpose." Kadia was taken aback. "The Duke? Why don't you call the Duke, father?" The question rendered Werner speechless. "I just don't see him as a father, so I'm not used to calling him that." She pondered. "Indeed, I've never seen them together, and they've lived apart for so long. It might be awkward to call him father." Werner spoke up. "So is it that strange?" Kadia quickly explained, "No, there are many different types of families in the world. Actually, I was also adopted. More accurately, I was fortunate enough to meet a very kind person." She clutched her skirt tightly. "I miss him very much." Werner glanced at her and chuckled softly. "Perhaps not everything in life comes at a price. You're a good person, so you met a benefactor. Life never tolerates those who are unworthy. Be confident, child." Kadia was touched. "I didn't expect to hear such words from Werner." "Thank you, young master." That evening, in the Duke's room, Luther was astonished. "You say she can see the flow of aura?" The person replied, "Yes, sir. The young lady's body seems to be able to perceive aura. She once said, "Sister, let's go back. This blue aura hurts too much." It seems she can see it with her naked eye. He fell into deep thought. Even after practicing swordsmanship for more than 5 years, it's difficult to see aura, let alone for such a young child. How can she perceive it? He asked. How old is she this year? 7. She replied, "She's 10 years old, sir." Luther was stunned. She looks like she's 7. So small. He thought to himself, you're comparing her to your abnormally tall child. That's why. He mused. Only 10 years old and already able to perceive sword aura. A child who only knows how to cut fruit, perceiving it earlier than the 11-year-old Werner. The girl said, the young lady's movements are incredibly agile, leaving almost no trace. She knows how to conceal herself so well that both the young master and miss didn't notice. Luther had a headache. A child who's never been trained can see aura and knows how to hide. I've never encountered such a case in my life, besides myself. He laughed. This is talent. Where did she inherit this talent from? I'll have to investigate her parents further. Could she be a spy? And then there was that case last year with the 13-year-old maid. Perhaps they deliberately chose someone likable and cute, someone small, so no one would suspect she's too good to be true, right? The maid chuckled. Whether she's a spy or not, I don't know, but the young lady is certainly adorable. Luther was exasperated. You've all been bewitched by her, Jim and Kate too. The maid added, and you've already had breakfast with the young lady 5 times. He was speechless. This little one was quite the infiltrator. Regardless, she'll be chosen soon. We'll have many distinguished guests visiting soon, so please give them a warm welcome. He worried. I wonder if she's persuading Werner and Arnold. Can she withstand the pressure of the family meeting? She's still so young. Kadia was peeling an apple when she overheard the news. The family meeting was about to convene. The maid replied, yes, we haven't had such a large-scale meeting in 10 years. Kadia asked anxiously, so when will it begin? The plan is to start as soon as Elder Jespa, the Duke's younger brother, arrives. Kadia was horrified. The family meeting is starting so soon, and I haven't won Werner's support yet. The maid watched in amazement as she carved the apple. What a beautiful swan. I was worried when you said you wanted to try carving it, but you're surprisingly skilled. Kadia boasted, I can also carve a rose. The maid exclaimed, it seems you're also quite skilled with a sword. Kadia thought to herself, but these chores won't help me survive in this house. I really have no choice. All right, I'll confess to Werner today. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Kadia entered Werner's room with a peeled apple. Good day, young master. Please enjoy this while you work. He was surprised. You peeled this yourself? She confirmed, yes, I wanted to offer it to you, young master. Werner put down the book he was reading, A Maid's Guide to Cleaning and Kitchen Work. You should ask for a raise. Blasco always rewards hard work. Kadia seemed a little displeased. I'm not a maid. He said, sit there and wait for me to finish my homework and today's report. She obeyed, staring at the book in his hands. Is that a history book about imperial politics? Looking at the neatly arranged contents. It's about the disputes during the establishment of the aristocratic parliament. This is the part he taught me, so it's best to refer to examples from neighboring countries. And then there was this book, A History of Continental Politics. Perhaps I should show him the chapter about the aristocratic parliament in the neighboring countries. She hesitantly picked up the book. Excuse me. Werner took it. Actually, it's right here. Thank you. He sighed. It's so complicated, it makes me want to curse. Suddenly, his expression changed. Wait, that's odd. Have you read this book before? Kadia trembled. Yes, around this time last year. He was even more surprised. Last year, when you were 9? She thought this is it, the moment of decision. Kadia started to cry. Young master. Actually, just then there was a knock at the door. The maid entered. Are you studying? I'm so sorry, young master. It's almost dinner time, and I couldn't find the young lady, so I came looking for her. Werner was surprised. Young lady? Who are you talking about? There are no children from the Blasco family here. The maid calmly pushed Kadia forward. She's standing right in front of you. He was startled. What? That child? At those words, the maid suddenly remembered. I haven't formally introduced her to you, young master. This is Lady Kadia Ainsley, the one mentioned in the Duke's will. She's been staying at this mansion for a week now. Werner's face turned cold. So was you. But why did you pretend to be a maid? Kadia was frightened. I didn't do it on purpose. I just missed the timing to tell you the truth. He said coldly, so you've been playing me for days. She quickly explained, I really didn't mean to. I was just afraid that if I told the truth, the Duke would kill me. Werner slammed his hand on the table in anger. Really? Are you joking? I told this child everything. I almost even told her father's stories. He trembled with rage. How dare you? How should I deal with you? Kadia apologized tearfully. Young Master Werner, I'm truly sorry. I didn't intend to hide my identity, but I didn't lie. I didn't mean to deceive anyone. Please let me explain. Werner felt a headache coming on. Wait, she continued, pleading her case. I'm really not a bad person, young master. That was how it happened. He couldn't take it anymore and yelled, Quiet, this child. Young master, why do you keep calling me young master? It made me misunderstand you. Kadia paused. Is the problem with how I address you? You don't like being called young master? Then what should I call you? Werner was taken aback. Werner then. Kadia looked surprised. What's your name? He sighed. Yes, try calling me Werner. She addressed him as he instructed, but was still scolded. No, you have to use honorifics. I'm several years older than you. You stupid liar. Kadia was frightened. Then how should I call you? Suddenly, she had an idea. I know, brother. Can I call you brother? Werner was startled. Brother? She continued, oblivious to his reaction. You can call me Kadia, or Kathy, or Kisha, or whatever. He was completely dumbfounded. Exasperated, he scooped her up without a word. Kadia cried out in frustration. I'm really not a liar. I lived with Grandpa for 10 years. She was met with Werner's retort. You're too loud, you liar. She continued to apologize. I'm sorry, handsome brother. I'm not ready to be buried in the mountains yet. He threatened. Shut up. I'll cover your mouth right now. Without another word, he carried her into a room. The person sitting inside was Luther. You should knock before entering someone's room, Werner. He replied, Who cares about knocking at a time like this? Why didn't you tell me beforehand? She was dressed like a beggar. How could I recognize her? What kind of outfit is that? Kadia dejectedly greeted him. Luther retorted, What did you say about her clothes? It looks like a rainbow. Why are you dressed so strangely? Didn't Margaret prepare enough clothes in the wardrobe? Kadia replied, There are plenty of clothes in the wardrobe, but this is what Grandpa bought me. So I really like it, and I miss him a lot. Werner froze at her words, and silence fell over the room. Luther broke the silence. I like bright colors too. Then of a shocket. Luther continued, Clothes should have many colors, with the top and bottom matching harmoniously. It's very creative. Werner couldn't believe his ears. Are you serious right now? Luther approached him. Why would you say such things to a child, Werner? Werner was utterly defeated. His taste is a bit strange. No, very impressive. Kadia reminded him. You just called me a beggar. He immediately changed his tune. Even a king shines in rags. It seems he wanted the whole world to see your extraordinariness. Kadia pouted. What do you mean? He said, a child like you, so knowledgeable about the political landscape of the continent. You are certainly extraordinary. She didn't understand what was so great about it. He said, it's common knowledge. If you didn't know, you'd be called an idiot. Luther mused. Father taught her intermediate and advanced knowledge, and she has the comprehension and memory to grasp it. Besides perceiving auras, she's gifted. Are all these coincidences? He beckoned. Little Tangerine. Hearing him call her, Kadia replied yes. He questioned if her aura sensing, sharp memory, and innate talent were coincidental. Upon calling her Kadia, the orange-haired girl said yes. Luther said, however, you should change into something more presentable. Uncle Jasper might be arriving soon. Kadia of Flaws, Jasper Blasco, the oldest and most senior member of the Blasco family. If that person comes, it means that from now on, the family meeting will be held. Sunlight streamed in through the window. Kadia thought as she walked, I still haven't been able to talk to Werner. I wanted him to support me, even just a little, but Margaret reassured her. Don't be too nervous. Mississippi compared to the Duke, Master Jasper is quite amiable. Kadia chuckled softly, comparing them to Mr. Hellion's strict demeanor. Margaret thought these family members were practically marshmallows. Arriving at their destination, Margaret encouraged Kadia, come on, Mississippi, go through that door. Don't be afraid. You can do it. Kadia reassured herself. There's no turning back now. All right, let's try this. The moment she opened the door, all eyes fell upon her. Kadia froze. Whispers rippled through the room, passing from one person to the next. Utterly bewildered, Kadia thought, what is this? This is more like a hearing than a meeting. There must be 50 people here. So many people, she thought. Arnold, seated below, smiled. She's here. Beside him, Werner said, you came. The two of them waited quietly. Kadia noticed them. Arnold's smile was a welcome sign. She encouraged herself. Okay, I can do this. Come on. Suddenly, she heard someone say, she looks so ordinary, so small and frail. How could she possibly wield a sword? It's a blessing the spirits aren't angered. Perhaps Mr. Hellion became senile in his old age. Who adopts an orphan at his age? He was always eccentric. All of us siblings kept our distance. A pang of hurt shot through Kadia. Even if you think that of me, why drag grandfather into it? She couldn't hold back. If you're so eager for the inheritance and the magic sword, you should have behaved better while he was alive. You sent letters, but no one came. It's the same on both sides. The entire room gasped. What is that child saying? She continued. While he lived, you abandoned him, ignored him. Now that he's dead, you chatter about his inheritance. You're all hypocrites, because he saw no worth in any of you. He left his vast fortune to a 10-year-old child. The nobles were shocked. That child, look how arrogant she is. You still smell of milk, yet you dare challenge your elders? Did the late Duke teach you such impudence? Kadia retorted. Mr. Hellion taught me to never let anyone bully me. I'm done for, she thought. Even if I'm punished for insulting the nobles, it's undeniable. But I won't cower. He said, never think of yourself as weak, no matter the circumstance. The moment you show weakness, you've already admitted defeat. The nobles glared at her. Such an insolent, shameless child. She needs a beating to knock some sense into her. Claudia was startled. What did you just say? A hand stopped him. Luther entered. Sit down, Chin. It's unsightly to be so angry in front of your elders. Only then did Kadia recognize him. Chin Blasco, the one Margaret had warned her to be especially wary of. Luther added, and Kadia Ainsley, you be quiet as well. We're not here to waste each other's time with sentimental outbursts. According to the investigation, aside from the villagers, she hasn't contacted any strangers. At least we can confirm this isn't a royal conspiracy. Chin sat down, dejected. Luther announced, now, let us begin the 112th Blasco family meeting. May the Blasco Jade clan be blessed by the magic sword. Kadia Ainsley offers greetings to the entire clan and the Duke. The man exclaimed, so you're the little heir Hellion raised. Kadia looked at him. It was Elder Jespa. His demeanor was as gentle as a mountain spirit. Jespa asked, have you gathered all the evidence proving the child's mother didn't intentionally target these assets? Luther replied, yes. If there were anything suspicious, I would have dealt with it immediately. Since being left at the late Duke's doorstep, the child hasn't left Turlfa. Turlfa was a remote village, rarely visited by outsiders. According to the investigation, aside from the villagers, she hasn't contacted any strangers. At least we can confirm this isn't a royal conspiracy. Luther said, yes. Of course. Elder Jespa continued to scrutinize the notarized will, Hellion's intent seemingly resolute. He won't awaken for another 2 or 3 months, making it difficult to question him directly. So, did he truly intend for us to suffer such a significant loss, or did he foresee her suitability as head of the Blasco family? It's one of those two scenarios. Kadia listened, her anxiety tightening its grip. Chin Blasco spoke again. I believe the former is more likely, Uncle. Have you forgotten how furious the late Duke was when Luke passed away 11 years ago? He declared he would never set foot in Blasco again. Werner, clearly irritated by Chin's words, interjected sharply. Cousin, the Duke asked us not to bring up irrelevant matters. Please refrain from unnecessary remarks. Chin sat back, embarrassed. My apologies, young master. Kadia thought to herself, Werner, he looks displeased. Luther spoke, his voice measured and calm. Whether by her own volition or coercion, Kadia cannot relinquish her inheritance. There are 2 ways to invalidate the succession. After the late Duke awakens, he can negotiate with a magic sword to change the heir, or the heir could meet with an unfortunate accident. They wouldn't inherit. Chin's voice was laced with a chilling pragmatism. The will becomes void upon the heir's death. What's there to hesitate about? Honestly, I don't understand why the head of the family insisted on convening this meeting. There's no need to blow this out of proportion. Arnold could no longer contain himself. Cousin, regardless of the criticism leveled against Blasco, we are not the kind of people who execute innocent children. Moreover, the Blasco family has always upheld the spirit of chivalry. Even if that child is truly a fraud, forcing her to die is no different from sullying the will of the Blasco family. Surely, the spirits wouldn't allow it either, would they, Uncle? She directed her question to Elder Jespa. You're right, Chin. Watch your words. He was furious, but his hands were tied. Arnold still holds a grudge. I see. He thought to himself, but I presume you don't actually desire the magic sword, do you? Or is your goal the inheritance itself? Even if you were to kill the child, the assets wouldn't fall to you first. They would belong to father, and then to the direct line, myself and Werner. Meaning, the Qin branch of the family has no way to interfere. Qin hastily explained, I swear I didn't mean it that way, princess. But what happens next depends on the wise head of the family's plan. Luther smiled. I presented 2 solutions earlier, but let me clarify. Murmurs rippled through the assembled nobles. Actually, there's a more promising method. Kadia, equally anxious, asked, what is it? Luther stated calmly, I intend to add Kadia Ainsley to the Blasco family registry. All eyes now turn to Kadia. Add me to the family registry? Kadia thought, bewildered. What does he mean? There's no such provision. Luther's grandfather asked, are you saying you'll adopt her? This was already within Luther's calculations. Yes. Uproar erupted at his words. What did I just hear? How is that possible? Are you mad, head of the family? But Luther's grandfather remained the calmest of all. Tell me, why would you have such a thought? Luther chuckled softly. Blasco's assets cannot be handed over to an Ainsley, correct? So we simply need to change her surname, and it's done. Simple and efficient. A wave of outrage washed over the men. Luther, if you adopt her, she becomes a direct descendant of the Blasco family. If she needs to be registered, it should be through a collateral branch, shouldn't it? Sybil also protested. That's right. How can you place her on the same level as the young master and princess? She's a commoner. We don't even know what kind of mixed blood she is. At the word mixed blood, Kadia's fists clenched. Mixed blood? Is that all you can say? That old Qin doesn't even bother with honorifics. Luther's grandfather nodded. I agree. Do you not understand what the status of a direct Blasco descendant entails? You, Werner, and Arning are the highest nobles of Esteroka. Painful as it is to say, the class difference is immense. If we change her surname, she should be registered with distant relatives. Kadia's worry intensified. Will I be sent to those hostile collateral families? Then my future is clear. The final decision still rests with Luther. I will register her as a direct descendant. Luther's grandfather's face was etched with shock. Why? Because I want to try raising Kadia. Kadia's face was a mixture of shock and disbelief. Those who heard this expressed their discontent. What's going on? Luther continued, I'm interested in her. She's not a bad child, and she doesn't have any ulterior motives. She is also the cherished child of the late Duke. Actually, I've gradually grown fond of her. Luther's grandfather raised a question. Since this isn't something you could decide alone, we need the opinions of the other direct descendants. Arnold, what do you think? Arnold didn't particularly object. I agree. Kadia was both touched and surprised. Oh, Arnold, he supports me. What about Werner? Werner's eyes were devoid of emotion. Then his lips moved. Kadia dreaded Werner's response. It seemed he was still angry, and he wouldn't easily accept being deceived. No, Werner finally spoke. I will follow the head of the family's decision. Kadia breathed a sigh of relief. All 3 direct descendants of the Blasco family agreed. Now comes the most crucial part. Luther said, now there's only one thing left. Kadia, what do you think? Sharp gazes focused on Kadia. Trembling with fear, she couldn't speak. The gazes of the collateral family members were so cold. What should I do? Luther's grandfather spoke up. Wait, let me talk to the child. He slowly descended the stairs and approached Kadia. Little one, have you heard about the scale of assets that will be owned in your name? Kadia shyly lowered her head. Yes. Luther's grandfather was referring to the Blasco family's business funds. This was also a significant sum. Starting this month, although it's currently undergoing urgent name changes, until now, it has been shared by all members of the Blasco family. The vault has always been open, so there haven't been any issues, but now it's locked due to the change in ownership, and unless it's the legal heir, it won't open. Kadia was startled to hear this. If that's the case, all of Blasco's business funds are frozen. I didn't expect it to be this bad. That's why everyone is gathered here. Luther's grandfather further explained, there's also a seal, so we can't use those assets. Therefore, the quickest solution is to accept you as a family member, just like Luther said. However, we can't welcome you without any verification, right? Just as Hellion vouched for you, you should also build trust with us, right? So, I want to propose something to you, and that is to participate in the inheritance competition. This competition will assess whether you are qualified to inherit from Hellion and Luther's daughter. This is also a test of your abilities and viability, Kadia. I didn't expect the collateral family to bring this up first. So this is what the Duke was talking about. He cleverly steered the topic towards the inheritance competition. Competition. So, Luther's grandfather naturally asked again, so do you agree? After receiving Kadia's answer, he began to say, all right, it's settled then. Then I propose holding an inheritance competition, similar to the head of the family's plan. A total of 4 tests will be conducted, and the content of each will be decided through a family meeting. The test questions will be chosen to assess the qualities of a Blasco family member. Only by passing all the tests can one be recognized as an heir and registered in the direct lineage. What do you all think? One side began to discuss amongst themselves. Since that's the case, the other side is the same. Luther naturally agreed with this decision. If it can prove she's qualified, it's also beneficial for me. Werner and Arnold didn't object either. They would make the final decision based on the majority vote. Luther said, as previously stated, the proposal for the inheritance competition will be passed. One surprise after another continued to shock Kadia. Luther handed her a piece of paper and a pen. Sign here, Kadia. This is confirmation that you will honestly abide by the rules of the competition. Kadia closed her eyes and prayed. He must have foreseen all of this. You think God can do it, right? If that's the case, whatever the problem is, I can do it because he never makes mistakes. Kadia returned to her room. Nearby servants greeted her cheerfully. You did well, miss. You didn't tremble at all, and you spoke decisively. Kadia laughed brightly. What's there to be afraid of? Honestly, my back was drenched in cold sweat. The servant said, first, let's go to the study. The head of the family said he'll go there after discussing the test questions. At the mention of a test, Kadia was frightened. Jamie and the others had also arrived. Are you all right? You've been through a lot. My heart won't stop pounding, Kadia said, tears welling in her eyes. Have you all been waiting for me? The private chef chimed in. Come on, let's go. I prepared some refreshments for you. It turned out everyone had been worried about Kadia. I'll do my best on the inheritance test, just like everyone is supporting me. The 4 of them stopped and looked at her. The servant said, oh dear, you can take your time. Jamie added with a smile, that's right. If you don't pass the test, no one will kick you out. The chef also comforted Kadia. If you find it difficult, come to us. Isn't Miss at the age to be receiving love and care? Kadia's tears flowed freely, this time from happiness. Everyone is so kind. Thank you, everyone. Seeing Kadia like this, everyone rushed to comfort her. In Luther's room, he glanced at Kadia. Has the tangerine turned into a Halloween pumpkin now? What's with that expression? Kadia asked, sniffling. Duke, were you serious about what you said earlier? Don't you remember saying you'd adopt me? He replied with the same indifferent demeanor. As the head of the family, would I lie in a meeting? Kadia wiped her tears. Can I ask why? I thought you hated me. The question rendered Luther speechless. Do I seem like that? It has nothing to do with whether I like you or not. I'm simply respecting my father's wishes. It's the easiest way to transfer the assets under the Blasco family name. What else could it be? Kadia spoke slowly. Adoption means becoming family. Does this mean I'm no longer Kadia Ainsley, but Kadia Blasco? Kadia clutched her skirt tightly with both hands. So you'll become my father? This gave Luther pause for thought. This was the crucial question Kadia wanted resolved. Luther walked over to Kadia and sat in the chair beside her. If you're asking me if I see you as my daughter, of course not, Kadia knew. That would be too much. Then Luther continued. But it's like with Tangerine, don't you need a grandfather more than a father? Kadia didn't think it was necessary. Luther only explained when pressed. It's not because I want your father's or Ghoul's assets that I want to adopt you. Kadia was anxiously curious. Then why? It was simply because Luther was curious about her. I don't know what my father saw in you, that he cherished you so much. Why didn't he contact the Blasco family even once? Why did he leave me with so much trouble after his death? I'm curious what he wanted to tell me through you. Kadia stared intently at Luther. So the Duke has been thinking a lot while looking at me, not to mention the deeper parts that I can't even begin to guess. Then, the calculating Luther added, but don't get too cocky, Tangerine, because you're not qualified yet. If you can't even reach Werner and Arnold's toes, you'll be ruthlessly eliminated. Claudia puffed out her cheeks. What if I don't like it? But Luther said, Claudia absolutely couldn't. How could I dislike someone who might become my real grandchild? Claudia was speechless. You're shameless. It's illegal to use my grandfather to cause trouble. Why me? Why am I Tangerine? Luther held Kadia tightly. Are you playing coy with me? Because I'm too lenient. He lifted her up, giving her a vantage point to survey the scene. Look at this place. Kadia's eyes filled with awe. Luther smiled. This scenery, these things happening before your eyes, do you want to possess them? Can I be honest? Kadia asked. Luther replied, it would be even more absurd if you lied. Truthfully, this castle is Cordy's desire. I want it. I want to live here. A beautiful house, a luxurious life, and friendly people. Everything I envied is here. Even if it's a single-parent family, I want a family, to become rich, and to create my own future with my own strength. No matter what discrimination I face, I can't die. The fact that I appear in Chapter 168 of the original story at least means I'm still alive in the future. Duke, I swear I will absolutely not give up halfway. Absolutely not. Luther, pleased with this, replied, well said. Kadia's goal has changed. No matter what happens, I will grow up in this house. Morning. In Kadia's room, Arnold opened the door and entered. Kadia, are you ready? What's this? Where are we going to fight? With that determined look, a look of excitement spread across Kadia's face. A million gold coins and my life are at stake. Of course, I have to be determined. Impressed by her spirit, Arnold said, good attitude. Let's go. Then, as soon as she got into the carriage, Kadia had a bad feeling. Why is he here? It was Sybil. Let's ride together, Ainsley. He had been rude to Kadia just a few days prior. No, thank you. But Sybil didn't seem to care. Even if you don't want to, there's no other way. I've been assigned to oversee Ainsley's cheating. I must fulfill my duty. Sit properly, Ainsley. I found you extremely rude yesterday. Vulgar language, slovenly posture, disrespectful gaze, and even a short temper. It's a typical type of uneducated commoner. For the Duke, the young master, and the princess, this can be overlooked, but not for me. I will not tolerate any behavior that tarnishes the Blasco family's honor. Ainsley, you must remember, the more rudely you behave, the more you damage the Blasco family's reputation and the late Duke's reputation as well. This was Cordy's tactic to provoke hateful people like Sybil. I can't take it anymore. How dare you bring up my grandfather? You're so well-educated. I thought you were the one yesterday shouting about whose mixed blood I carried. I never uttered such vulgar words. Using the Blasco name, behaving so crudely, doesn't that go against chivalry? If it were me, I would be so ashamed I couldn't lift my head. Sybil was furious. How dare you speak such disrespectful words? Then Luther arrived, surprised to see Sybil. Why are you in my carriage, Sybil? Don't change the subject. I asked you why you're here. Sybil's arrogance vanished. I've been assigned a role of overseer. I have a duty to follow Ainsley all the way to the capital. Luther said coldly, Overseer? I don't recall appointing anyone like you. Didn't you see this? Kadia gasped, seeing the symbol of a direct descendant that Luther had just touched, a spiral pattern. The collateral branches had no pattern. On the butterfly wings, it was like an absolute barrier separating the direct line and the collateral line, preventing them from mixing. Then Luther kicked Sybil out. He could only endure and obey. Suddenly, Sybil grabbed Cordy's hand. Come on, this carriage is only for direct descendants. Kadia was confused. Why did she have to leave too? Werner, standing nearby, saw this and his face darkened. Can't you understand polite words, Sybil Blasco? Get out now. Whether or not our family adopts her later, that possibility doesn't change anything. Do you understand? Sybil lowered his head. I apologize. Then Arnold arrived as well. Who is this? The question embarrassed Sybil. She doesn't know me. Your Highness, Princess. I'll be in the carriage behind. Arnold dismissively ignored him. All right, move aside. Kadia's eyes nearly popped out. So cool. This is the power of a direct descendant. Oh my, such flirting. It's so refreshing in the morning. The carriage, carrying everyone, passed through the magic circle. Kadia marveled at the scene before her. Teleportation? She couldn't believe it could move something as large as a carriage. The journey from the Blasco estate usually took 15 days. This magical civilization was even more advanced than modern science. Luther glanced out. We've arrived at the city gates. From here on out, it's the capital, Palm. The view was breathtakingly beautiful and opulent. Everything captivated Kadia's attention. Palm, the birthplace of magic, the heart of the Astroka Empire, a land of overflowing riches. So radiant, so enchanting. Luther said, go directly to the central bank. The first trial was to open Helgen's vault at the Astroka Central Bank. The bank's vault was a restricted area, heavily guarded. If the owner died, the vault automatically locked itself. Since the unlocking method depended on the owner's settings, no one but the person concerned knew how to open it. Usually, it was a riddle, but there were also cases where you had to break a lock, use special magic, or navigate traps set to prevent thieves. Kadia had to go there first and see. Arnold asked her again, Are you really confident? Kadia wasn't worried in the slightest. Trust me, princess. I might be a bit overconfident, but when my grandfather was still alive, he gave me some hints. There's bound to be some numbers written somewhere. First, I have to take everything he left behind. The dull key, the broken music box, the pocket watch. I'll try everything, no matter what. If there are no numbers, I'll open the rocket pendant and go inside. Time stops in there, so if I find the original and think about it, I'll figure something out. Luther turned to look at her. Come on, let's go inside. Kadia's first trial began. Inside, there were dolls working. Doll magic. Dolls made of sand, set with automatic commands, capable of using attack magic. There were no actual people. This is a marvel. Claudia was amazed that all the work in this massive bank was handled by sand dolls. How may I help you? A doll greeted them. Luther presented a large envelope. We're here to unlock the vault registered in the name of Helgon Fernanda Blasco. The doll opened and read the fully documented materials. I will scan Kadia. Confirmation complete. Please leave all weapons before entering. Arnold was displeased. What a hassle. Werner and Arnold laid down a considerable amount of weaponry. Kadia watched, apprehensive. What is that? Can they always equip themselves like that? Who would dare mess with the Blascos now? But then again, the royal family and the Blascos were on very bad terms, and the capital was the royal family's territory. They had to be more careful than usual. The doll will lead the way. Please follow me. We've arrived. Everyone except Kadia had a serious expression. She looked terrified. What is that? A monster? Luther explained that it was a wraith, a demon sealed within a magic sword by a Blasco ancestor at the cost of their life. That was its original form. Good luck, Orange. Since your trial is to face it, do your best. Don't get hurt. Arnold and Werner said in unison. It's a shame you have to face that demon alone. We'd like to help, but our weapons have been confiscated. Sorry, kid. Kadia was already petrified. No way. It'll swallow me whole, bones and all. I give up. I'll die. Absolutely not. Luther placed his hand on her head. It's stone, just stone. Look closely, it's not moving. Kadia took another look. Stone? Are they joking with me? At a time like this? Then Arnold stepped a little closer. The real test is finding a way to open this door. There's something here. Gears engraved with numbers. Like a lock. Looks like Kadia has to figure out the code. There's writing beneath the gears. Where my fragrance lingers, where my soul resides, where my youth shone bright. My friend, my love, my song. When we return to the beginning, we shall return to the long journey. Memories of my youth, my friends, and my loves are hidden where my perfume stays under the gears. We'll go back to where it all began. Oh, what does this mean? Arnold explained that it was a hymn, a commemoration of the Blasco's soul, though slightly altered. It was originally a song to commemorate the head of the family. Arnold sang the lyrics etched into the gears. Kadia watched, transfixed. It was the Blasco memorial hymn. That much was clear. Arnold then addressed Luther. Whoever opens this vault becomes its master, correct? Luther replied cheerfully. Anyone who opens it has the right to access and modify the vault's lock. At these words, Sybil's expression shifted abruptly. Arnold and Werner's reactions were different as well. Kadia noticed the change in everyone's eyes. Arnold called out, Blasco Hymns, Volume 1, page 34, lines 11 through 16. The gears began to turn. A pink light flickered in the crack of the door, then began to fade. Arnold was filled with disappointment. Wrong. Almond's eyes widened. What was that sound? The statue shifted its posture. Werner spoke. Look at the magic at its feet. That's a 6-ring or higher power attack. I suspect if you input the wrong answer more than the designated number of times, the magic circle will complete and launch an attack. Almond pouted. Well, it's just a stone statue. Werner scolded her. We're empty-handed now. How can you be so naive? You idiot. Arnold, unable to contain himself, retorted, Shut up. I only tried once. Do you think you figured it out, Mr. Smartypants? Werner rubbed his head. Just saying, since it's 7 digits, it could be a date. Hearing this, Sybil panicked. Ignoring Werner's shouts, he ran towards the door. He ignored Arnold's shouts as well. Werner yelled, It's changing posture again. The magic circle is almost complete, but Luther remained motionless. Sybil tried again. If it's not the date of the Duke's inheritance, then is it the anniversary of Luther Blasco's death? He tried again and again, but they were all wrong. Almond began to lose her initial confidence. Oh no, Kadia heard it growl as if it were alive. It looked as if it was about to move. Sybil seemed to have gone mad. Not that either. Then, before he could continue, Werner punched him. Hey you, how dare you interfere? Arnold was also furious. Don't you know observers aren't allowed to interfere with the test? Back off. I should have separated you from the door by force from the beginning. How many chances are left? Werner observed. Judging by the complexity of the spell, it seems like there's only one chance left. Arnold glared at Sybil, furious at the idiot who had wasted 2 chances. Part of it is my fault for even touching it in the first place. I shouldn't have been so impulsive. If this continues, the one who will be attacked will be Kadia was concentrating on trying to open the door. No. Why? If it's a him or a date related to Blasco, that method won't work. Isabel designated me as the sole inheritor. There's no other way but to keep my promise. The only person who knows the answer to this riddle can only be me. The subject is me, and it's in the present, not the past or the future. This is the message he left before becoming a soul, not a commemoration of his family. Then Kadia hummed the lyrics. Luther couldn't believe a little girl could have such profound insight. The tune was Kadia's lullaby, carrying the gentle melody he used to sing whenever she had trouble sleeping. Kadia's memories of her grandfather flooded back. Grandpa, what does this mean? Where does my fragrance linger? Her grandfather had chuckled. So, where do you think I spent my youth? Kadia had chimed in, your hometown. So, this is a farewell, just like when you leave your hometown. Her grandfather had nodded. That's right. Everyone important in my life is still there. Kadia thought that he must have missed them terribly, and it made her heart ache too. But Jen's surprisingly optimistic. On the contrary, she said, we'll go where we belong, and then return to the long journey to find what awaits us at the beginning. I remember you were the first person I took to Leighton. It's you, Kadia. It seems he found Kadia. A song for the departed, sung as a lullaby. Could he have been here months ago? Sensing the call of the magic sword, he came here and changed the vault's lock to this? I'll try. I know what it is now. Arnold couldn't believe his ears. Really, Kadia turned the dials. Werner was practically trembling for her. Hey kid, if you're just turning it randomly like that, this is our last chance. Kadia finished, waiting for the result. The code she used was 4270401. Everyone waited for a miracle. After that flash of light, Kadia prayed silently. Is it done? It looks like the light lingered longer than the previous attempts. The door continued to crack. The light began to fade. Werner braced himself for the worst. Oh no, it must be wrong. Kadia gritted her teeth. No, how could this be? They didn't know what else to expect. Would Kadia really succeed? Suddenly, the door swung open, light spilling out. Arn, Blasco, and Kadia Ainsley gasped. What? It worked. Everyone present watched as the door opened. The door was finally open. There really is an entrance inside. It must be here. The key he gave me is in a book. Kadia Ainsley retrieved the key and unlocked the door, but inside it was pitch black. Arnold Blasco asked in alarm. I can't see anything. Kadia Ainsley seemed hesitant. She seemed afraid to go inside. Arn and Blasco watched as the silhouette of his sister stepped in. Wait, we don't know what's in there. Even though I can't see what's ahead, I'm sure it'll be all right, Kadia Ainsley thought, because I feel him right in front of me. Suddenly, Kadia Ainsley saw something. Is this the vault? A scene filled with gold coins unfolded before her. What am I looking at? This place, is this all? Is everything covering the entire wall gold? Even the jewels and artifacts glittered brilliantly. At Kadia Ainsley's feet lay an enormous diamond. Her hand trembled as she picked it up. Is this all real? Kadia Ainsley still couldn't believe her eyes. Is all this money mine? Kadia Ainsley's face was a mask of astonishment. There are mountains of gold coins. Amazing. Kadia Ainsley rejoiced in the sea of riches. This is incredible. Everyone would love this. Even an entire nation couldn't compare. I can understand why the affiliates were so agitated. It seemed Kadia Ainsley had found something else. She pulled a pendant from her person. Is it this ring? She suddenly noticed that half the name on the pendant was rubbed away. His name was here, and then it was erased. Could it be because the owner changed? Cependant, please state your name. Should I say my name? Kadia Ainsley wondered. Suddenly, she noticed a letter on a glass case. Welcome to official VIP membership of the central bank. Please feel free to check your balance and manage your account. Is this a list of almost all the accounts? Kadia Ainsley was astounded. Oh my goodness, I've received such a huge gift. Is this real? He must have seen something in me to entrust me with such a vast fortune. If so, my task must be how to use this money. This is the entirety of the Blasco family's financial resources, assuming all the information from the past decade has been preserved intact. There might be factions trying to erase or conceal it, but I absolutely cannot lose this. From now on, I'll keep it secured, Kadia Ainsley thought, her mind racing. As much as I'd like to stay here forever, everyone's waiting outside, so I have to leave now. But first, I need to take some emergency funds and a few essentials. Outside the vault, anxiety gnawed at the group as Kadia's return was delayed. So what does 4270401 mean? Alnan Blasco asked, his voice laced with tension. Werner Blasco replied, according to the Imperial calendar, it's April 1st for 27. That was 10 years ago. That's likely the day the late Duke adopted Kadia. Werner Blasco continued. Alnan Blasco was perplexed. Using the adoption date as a password seems a bit careless, doesn't it? No one else besides the two of them knew that date, so it wasn't a terrible choice. Luther Blasco countered, a memory surfacing. It was a lullaby he used to sing to me when I was a child, a song about the fate of the Blasco family. He orchestrated everything, guiding her here all along. The vault door illuminated once more, and Kadia Ainsley emerged. I'm back, she exclaimed, her face radiant with triumph. She looked around, expecting to see Sybil. Did I pass? She inquired. At her words, Sybil's face seemed to swell with pride. Miss, you have passed your test. Congratulations, Miss Kadia Ainsley. Documents materialized on the glass surface of the vault door. Symbols appeared as well. I passed, the young woman cheered, practically bouncing with joy. Identity confirmed. Is there anything else you require? Kadia considered. Let me see the financial statement from year 403 to 437. The last 34 years. That will take a little time, approximately 15 days. Is that acceptable? Kadia nodded her agreement. I need to check if any rats have been embezzling funds all these years. Finally, Kadia Ainsley sank onto a cushioned seat. Now, with my pockets practically overflowing, I feel invincible. It's such a relief. Back at the family estate, a large wooden statue stood prominently before the house. It's another gray statue. How annoying. Because it looks like this, it's rumored to be a villain's effigy. Alnan Blasco suddenly remembered something. Speaking of which, I just recalled, when you changed the vault password earlier, didn't you place a statue like a guard in front of the door? Kadia Ainsley defended her actions. It was to deter intruders, you know. I was tricked into thinking I was facing a wall, and I was furious. A voice interrupted their conversation. This way, miss, said Jimmy and Parker. The doors swung open, revealing the elegantly furnished interior of the house. Miss, you've worked hard with the inspection today. Margaret greeted her, emerging from within the house. Please leave the items you brought from the vault here. They will be kept very safe, without any errors. Thank you, Margaret, Kadia Ainsley replied sweetly. Don't be so formal. Margaret continued. Please rest well. If you need anything, just ring the bell. Impulsively, Kadia leaned forward and kissed Margaret on the cheek. Miss, I'm so touched, Margaret exclaimed. Kadia reflected. I'm so grateful to Margaret for doing so much for me. I must be even better to her in the future. I've secured the vault's contents. Now there's only one thing left. Grandfather, I miss you terribly. When we turn back, we will return to a long journey. A melody drifted through the air. Kadia paused, a thought catching her attention. Why is that part we and not I? Was he traveling with someone else when he left his homeland? I may have to ask him again next time I see him. Now I have to get organized, she mused, because I have a place safer than even the vault. Kadia Ainsley took out the pendant. Later that night, in her bedroom, Kadia Ainsley finally finished her preparations. There's truly no better place for storage than this. It already had some things in here, and it was impossible to bring things in or out. But now I can. Kadia Ainsley's steps grew lighter. Our gift is like magic. She paused, a hint of frustration in her voice. Chapter 168 still isn't making any progress. What conditions must be met to finally unlock the new chapter? These items are neatly arranged. The basic cleaning is complete. How much are these worth? These are magical tools worth a fortune at auction. Kadia Ainsley suddenly thought, right, I have to take this back. It seemed light in my bedroom, but why is it so heavy? I need a weapon sufficient for self-defense and emergencies. It wouldn't be surprising if assassins were sent after me. So, Kadia Ainsley resolved to lift the sword, but it was so heavy that she strained with the effort. I also have to strike a cool pose. I'm going to cut it down, cut it in half. Just then, the sound of the door opening came. It turned out to be Arnold and Werner Blasco, who had rushed in after hearing the commotion. Kadia, what are you chopping? Do you know how dangerous it is to swing a sword without armor? Do you think wielding a sword is like playing with a toy? Why did you take it out at this time? 1224 Kadia Ainsley, scolded, felt a pang of fear. This is the advance payment I'm giving you, sister. Optional double attack power and level 5 authorization, which can activate a defensive barrier in emergencies. This is the third masterpiece of the legendary blacksmith, Yakin. It's said to have disappeared from the continent centuries ago. Don't tell me this is the Consort 3, the legendary sword? That's its name. You just need to sign a contract. If you sign for all of Yakin's masterpieces, 99% pure magic stones, and pure mana water, I'll give them all to you. Is that okay? Won't you be sad to give up something so precious? Of course, but I bet he also wanted to give it to someone who needs it. No wonder Arnold Blasco has been so grateful to Kadia Ainsley since he first met her. Ever since I first met you, you've been like my little sister. Sister, please sign on my behalf. It's a contract after all. Don't worry, Blasco will never betray a promise made in loyalty. Great, I like you the most, beautiful sister. Alliance with Arnold complete. Can't we go home yet? Why? Margaret explained that when the nobles of the territory visit the capital, they are obligated to have an audience with the emperor. Kadia Ainsley wondered, but I heard that the relationship with the Imperial family isn't very good, is it? That's right. The Imperial family and his maternal relatives, the Marquis of Achilles, are very wary of the Blascos. So, to keep them in check, they set stricter standards. That's right. The Blascos' influence is substantial not only in politics and commerce, but also in the military, so it makes sense. But Lady Blasco has always been absolutely loyal to the Imperial family, even sacrificing herself to become the guardian of the magic sword to keep her oath to the previous emperor. On the one hand, they maintain loyalty, but the Marquis and the Imperial family create trouble based on the Blascos' standing. It must be very unfair. Actually, right after Lord Luther passed away for no reason, the relationship with the Imperial family suddenly fractured. Suddenly realizing she had revealed too much, Margaret told herself to stop talking. Have you forgotten how furious the late Duke was when Luke died 11 years ago? Luther, that name sounds familiar. He was his second son who passed away, and also the Duke's younger brother. Could he have been a victim of a conspiracy by the Imperial family and the Marquis of Achilles? Then, it's understandable why the Blascos resent the Imperial family so much. Margaret reassured her, but don't worry too much, Miss Kadia. The Blasco family isn't a weak family that would succumb to the Imperial family's threats. By the way, sister, who was this person named Luther? Kadia Ainsley asked. Margaret hesitated, unsure how to answer. He was a good person. He was upright, loyal to the family, and the most skilled swordsman after young Master Luther. After young Master Luther passed away, the Duke seemed very different. They used to be incredibly close. Margaret started rubbing her eyes, blaming the dust. Whenever I see you smile, Miss, I'm reminded of young Master Luther. He had a very bright smile, just like you. Margaret thought suddenly. Is that so? Then please smile more, Mississippi. It would be more comforting than anything in the world, and it's not difficult at all. Kadia Ainsley felt a warmth spread through her. So, everyone's getting ready to go to the Imperial Palace. Everyone's dressed so smartly. Luther Blasco looked at young Kadia Ainsley. The little lady looks absolutely adorable. Luther Blasco couldn't quite understand. Why are you smiling like an idiot? Kadia Ainsley thought. There's no need to be so unintentionally rude. Luther Blasco smiled gently and cheerfully. Have fun, and don't cause any trouble, little Tangerine. Luther Blasco patted the young girl's head. So affectionate. It reminds me of grandfather. Be careful. Kadia Ainsley waved goodbye cheerfully. So everyone's left. Their hurried departure leaves me feeling a little lonely. Even so, it's all right. I have plans too. Well then, let's get going as well. Before that, let me introduce you to someone. This is Rosa. She's not just a maid, she's quite talented. It's always better to have company. How would you feel if Rosa accompanied you in the dazzling Pelham capital? The beautiful capital. I love it there. There's so many interesting things, but just one thing bothers me. How long are you planning to follow me around? I don't know how many times I've said this, but I miss Ainsley's supervisor. Even if you don't like it, there's nothing you can do about it, right? Ainsley showed no sign of acceptance. They're talking so loudly. My ears must be blocked with earwax, so I can't hear anything. Kadia Ainsley pretended not to hear. So annoying. If I let that clingy fellow follow me, something bad is bound to happen. That orange-haired girl, that's someone from the Blasco family. People murmured. Are those people talking about me? The scale of that fortune. My affairs were supposed to be confidential. How did the rumors spread throughout the entire capital? Like this, I could feel everyone's gaze. Rosa sensed it too. Could it be that someone is targeting Miss? Perhaps we should leave this place. Is an assassin? I should go check. Miss, please wait here for a moment. I'll check the surroundings and be right back. Rosa, remember to carefully protect Mississippi. Kadia Ainsley felt a deep sense of unease. I have a bad feeling about this. It was true. Someone behind her wanted to assassinate her. He wanted to harm this young Mississippi. Please step back, Mississippi. Rosa used all her strength to protect her. Be careful, sister. If Rosa gets hurt, what will I do? Ainsley, are you all right? Sybil came running in a panic to check on her. His hand reached closer. Kadia Ainsley's mouth was covered. Sybil couldn't stop him in time. In a dark and gloomy place, Kadia Ainsley was captured and locked away. When Kadia Ainsley woke up, she was terrified, for she didn't know where she was. Where is this? It's so dark. What do they take me? How could they do this to a 10-year-old child so cruelly? Whoever it is, they'll get what's coming to them. Kadia Ainsley tried to calm herself down and think carefully, searching for a way out. Blasco has kept my existence completely confidential. If his political opponents knew that the family fortune rested on this young heir, it would be disastrous. However, rumors about me are already spreading everywhere. That means someone on the inside is spreading them. After struggling for a while, Kadia Ainsley finally managed to sit up. Fortunately, she still had the rocket, but her purse and the vault key were gone. They took the old key, but left the rocket. Besides the direct descendants of Blasco, only one person knows how to use that key. At that moment, Kadia Ainsley suddenly thought of Sybil and his son. It was him, Sybil. Just as she suspected, a very strong feeling arose. Chun and Sybil, that wicked father and son. It's difficult to approach a direct descendant when they're together, so they secretly seized the opportunity. They must have planned to hire criminals to kidnap her and pretend they knew nothing about it. Oh my God, that wicked man, just you wait. Luckily, she left the ticket in the subspace. If it were stolen, everything would be practically over. Kadia Ainsley muttered the opening incantation under her breath. Open, 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 sesame. The lock remained stubbornly unmoved. Then suddenly, a bright flash erupted. Kadia Ainsley was ecstatic, for she had finally opened it. She hurriedly searched for her dagger. Fortunately, she found it right away. There it was. Kadia Ainsley used the dagger to saw at the ropes binding her hands. Finally, the ropes snapped. Kadia Ainsley jumped up and down with joy. Now she was alive again. Let me get my hands on the ones who did this. I'll tear their mouths apart. I can only stay in this space for a full 6 hours. Once I'm thrown out, I can't come back for a day. While I was unconscious, I don't know how much time has passed. I don't know how to get Sybil to tell Margaret. I can't just sit here and wait for someone to rescue me. I have to save myself before the carriage stops. The next morning, at the Blasco mansion, Alan Blasco was taking a stroll when someone called his name. He turned around, wanting to see who dared to call the Duke's name so casually. It turned out to be Marquis Ogden. That vile old man, he thought, as Ogden pointed at him. This face, it's been a while since I've seen it. You haven't been to the capital for years, have you? Alan Blasco thought to himself. If it weren't for the Emperor's favoritism, even a Marquis wouldn't dare to raise his head in front of a Blasco. 2 years ago, Luther Blasco's death was a sudden accident, with no evidence and no witnesses. However, almost everyone knew it was the result of collusion between the Imperial family and Marquis Ogden. Yet he was still so shameless. Alan Blasco ordered Werner and Arnold, go to the carriage first. If you don't see me in half an hour, return to the mansion. No matter what, I might have to chat with Marquis Ogden for a while. Werner and Arnold didn't understand what their father wanted to do before he allowed them to leave. Then, Werner and Arnold turned and left. We understand, father, Alan Blasco said to Ogden. It's been 2 years, hasn't it, Marquis? Yes, are you well? Your two children are still as energetic and hot-tempered as ever. Growing up in a family of swordsmen like that isn't enough to make a politician, Kadia Blasco said with a smile. Children should be like children. Is it really necessary to familiarize them with this damned cesspool? Ajin continued. Of the two of them, the next head of the family will one day join the nobility. Do you need me to teach you to be more far-sighted, Kadia Blasco replied. Let them figure it out themselves. Intervention will only lead to the same result as before. By the way, Marquis, you speak too casually. You should know your place, shouldn't you? Hearing Kadia Blasco say this, Ajin was startled. How dare he address the Duke so casually? If you weren't an elder, I wouldn't even need to show you any respect. The Marquis stammered. My apologies, I wasn't thinking. I suppose since it's been a while, I was eager to offer my greetings. It has been some time. Let me see. I keep hearing news about Ajin. Don't you often send people from there to Adam? Even so, please refrain from coming at midnight or dawn. Also, are you sending children to lower our guard? I won't spare them just because they're children. Having said this, Kadia Blasco turned and left. Well, I'm off. Ajin called out. Speaking of children, I've heard a rather interesting rumor recently. I hear the Duke has a late-born child. That rumor has spread throughout the capital. Your father left his entire inheritance to a child not even related by blood. In this bustling and treacherous capital, wouldn't it be better to be more careful? Who knows what might happen? Word travels fast, doesn't it? Let's Blasco scolded. Stop prying into other people's family affairs and worry about managing your own alcoholic. Youngest son, Let's Blasco finished abruptly and hurried away, a sense of unease settling upon him. He suspected Margaret alone wouldn't be enough to escort her safely. Arnold cried out, Father, something's happened. Kadia! Let's Blasco's heart lurched. Sybil crumbled. I'm so sorry, sir. I was momentarily careless. We were attacked by strangers, and Ainsley is missing. At these words, Let's Blasco's face contorted in fury. He drew his sword, pointing it directly at Sybil. Are you trying to take credit now? Go and find her immediately. The air crackled with his terrifying aura. Search the entire capital. Bring her to me, and don't let a single hair on her head be harmed. In a dark and gloomy prison, Kadia Ainsley was captured, her escape attempt thwarted. The moment the carriage stopped, I jumped out. Who knew that was the destination? Another voice spoke. Why bring all this back? Selling it is too suspicious. A third replied, it's the boss's orders. Don't send it to the arena. Auction it off separately. Hearing the words arena and auction, Kadia Ainsley's eyes widened in alarm. Throw her in that cell over there. A man opened a door and shoved Kadia Ainsley inside. Stop yelling and stay put. Kadia Ainsley blinked, tried to adjust to the dim light. Although the arena was legal in Esteroka, it also seemed to be a place for illegal transactions, including human trafficking. In the original story, Niella was also pushed into an illegal arena. The plot was similar. Was this her punishment for taking Niella's place as the girl? Punishment? She was going to become Kadia Blasco. Kadia Ainsley looked around, noticing that most of the cells were empty. It was noisy outside. The matches were probably still going on. I brought my dagger from the subspace. As soon as the guard leaves, I'll slip out. Suddenly, a shout startled Kadia Ainsley. Walk properly. What? Had that boy been caught too? He just doesn't listen. Shouldn't his true form be slowly revealed today? He's not dead yet. Even if he dies, he won't stay dead. He'll probably wake up tomorrow. Two men shoved a boy directly into his cell. So stubborn, hard to deal with. Torture him for about 15 days, and won't he eventually turn into a divine beast? Everyone's been waiting. What a waste of effort today. Damn it, he's useless now. It's better to auction him off tomorrow. He's a mixed blood beast. He looks pretty good. He can probably be sold for 500 gold coins. A mixed blood beast? Regardless, he had regenerative abilities and silver hair. Kadia Ainsley pondered. That boy, could he be? After the two men left, Kadia Ainsley peered through the bars. She whispered, Hey, are you all right? The boy's hand twitched. Kadia Ainsley took out her dagger, sawed through the bars, and rushed to the boy's side. Hey, are you awake? Does it hurt? Sir. Looking at the boy, Kadia Ainsley felt a flicker of recognition. She gently lifted his head with her hand, trying to get a better look at his face. Indeed, this boy was the current male protagonist, the magical divine beast, Akori, the master of the Holy Sword. The boy stirred, asking Kadia Ainsley, "Who are you?" But he only received Kadia Ainsley's innocent reply, so small. He was completely bewildered. Athel, a mixed blood of human and the ice divine beast Ji, destined to become the master of the Holy Sword. From birth, he was a cold-blooded, handsome swordsman with a strong and tall physique. He was the dream lover of many readers in Chiwuma, and also the favorite character who kept her awake at night. She never thought she would see his small and adorable childhood form with her own eyes. He was truly cute. "I almost cried seeing Kadia Ainsley so quiet," Akori said. I asked her who she was, Carrot Top, but Kadia Ainsley still wouldn't listen, just sat there daydreaming. Her voice is childish too. His own body was already healing, the bloodstains even fading. She really is a tiny little thing. If I play my cards right, maybe I can get her to help me out of here. Kadia Ainsley looked at Akori. "You must be in a lot of pain. Are you feeling any better now?" Akori stared at Kadia Ainsley for a moment. Then, with a single word, he replied, "Yes." Seeing that he seemed to have opened up a little, Kadia Ainsley pressed on. "How long have you been here? Were you brought here by chance? Aren't you still in the Knight's Order?" Akori retorted. "How do you know I'm a member of the Knight's Order?" Kadia Ainsley quickly covered her mouth. "Oops, I let that slip." "Well, your whole body tells me. Isn't that regenerative ability unique to the White Knight's Order under the Holy Sword, created by the goddess of healing and rebirth? Seeing that level of instantaneous recovery means he's someone important. Akori must have been groomed from a young age to be the Holy Sword's master and the Knight's Order's guardian." Thinking this, Kadia Ainsley realized, wait, if someone as important as Akori has been kidnapped and brought here, isn't the White Knight's Order in complete chaos right now? Am I wrong? It seems I need to get out of here quickly before I get caught up in it. In the dim dungeon, Akori decided to gather information from a fellow prisoner. "Are you on the staff here? Or do you belong to the Black Knight's Order? I've never seen anyone like you among the Knight's Order's mentors and soldiers." Kadia hurriedly replied, "I have nothing to do with the Knight's Order. I was just kidnapped and brought here. What about you? Why are you here?" Mid-conversation, the sound of approaching footsteps caused the two to separate. Kadia rushed to the door and quickly slid the bolt shut. Though only a temporary measure, the guard didn't seem to notice. Kadia silently prayed it would work. Indeed, he hadn't noticed, simply delivering dinner, a few scraps of bread, and handing them to the small girl. "This is your dinner. Don't waste it. You'll need all your strength to survive tomorrow's match." Looking at the meager meal, Kadia suddenly thought of the Blascos, realizing she was missing. "They must be looking for me, right? Even so, they won't reach here today, so I have to hold on until I'm rescued." Kadia, spotting another girl, larger than herself, felt a flicker of hope. "Hey, Mississippi." The red-haired girl noticed Kadia and immediately made an excuse. "My ankle hurts so much, and I'm thirsty too. What do you want? There's nothing like medicine here." Knowing the girl had a bit of compassion, Kadia immediately lured her in with a sweet voice. "Then could you give me a handkerchief, water, or something? If something happens to me, the value of the merchandise will go down, you know?" The red-haired girl worried that if the merchandise was damaged, her own life would be in danger, so she was a little reluctant. Coupled with Kadia's extremely pitiful expression, she took out the key and opened the cell door. "Let me see what's wrong with your ankle." As soon as she grasped the lock, she saw the crack Kadia had made earlier and realized she had been tricked by the little girl, feeling both angry and resentful. Unfortunately, it was too late. Kadia grabbed the girl's skirt. "Miss, take this." Expecting a fierce fight to break out, Kadia instead simply handed the girl a gold coin. The glittering object quickly captivated the red-haired girl. "Is this real gold?" Kadia said she had a lot of money and could pay her several times over if she helped her. Needless to say, it was enough for the red-haired girl to live carefree for a year. Kadia continued, "Do you know who my father is? If he knew I was kidnapped, he wouldn't let it go." "Child, what's your last name?" "Blasco," Kadia replied. Hearing this, Reed jumped, the gold coins slipping from her grasp. "Blasco?" That name echoed frequently in her ears. The brutal noble, the ferocious Blasco. If this place were discovered, everyone who worked here would be left as nothing but bones. "Have you heard of Aiden, Savannah?" Reed trembled, trapped in the cell by the weight of the threat, her whimpers the only sound. Phase 1 complete. Kadia silently thanked the notoriety of the Blasco name. It had, in a way, paved the way for her plan. Another problem presented itself. Even if she could escape, Kadia could only leave alone. Akori, as the arena's most popular commodity, would be immediately missed if he accompanied her. Reed had told her that tomorrow night, just before the arena opened to its patrons, most of the cells would be empty. While she opened the doors, Kadia could slip away unnoticed. A pang of sadness struck her. She wouldn't be able to leave with him the following night. The appointed time arrived, and Kadia's cell door swung open. She cautiously surveyed her surroundings, then, taking advantage of the momentary solitude, slipped out of the dungeon. Glancing back at the adjacent cell, Akori remained in his original position, showing no inclination to escape. Kadia suspected it was due to the magic-suppressing collar he wore. She couldn't be certain, but Akori appeared relaxed, as if leaving wasn't even a consideration. "Hey," Kadia called out to Akori. "You seem perfectly healthy. Why aren't you running away? Why are you still here?" Akori chuckled softly, his response nonchalant. "Just for fun." Kadia was taken aback by the unexpected answer, stunned into silence for a few seconds. Akori elaborated, "This is the first time I've experienced the real world outside the temple. It's interesting, so I'm staying." Is that so? I really shouldn't have gotten involved with you." "Well, take care. It was nice knowing you." Akori's brow furrowed. "Where are you going?" "I don't like this place, so I'm leaving." "Take me with you. You said it was interesting here, but now I'm bored, so maybe I should leave too." This sudden about-face caught Kadia completely off guard. How could her cellmate be so brazen? Akori, it seemed, was finding this place more sinister than he'd initially thought, not unlike the Order. Not unlike? Isn't the vast Order a place of justice and righteousness? Kadia was curious, but didn't dare ask, keeping the question tucked away at her thoughts. She moved closer to Akori's cell. "So, you can get out on your own with your powers, right?" "No, I can't. If I unleash my power, the temple will detect the signal, find me, and drag me back." Kadia was horrified by the temple's barbaric practices. She hadn't expected such a dignified organization to treat a child like an animal. Through this, Kadia learned that Akori was being hunted by the Order. Even if he escaped this place, he had nowhere to go. Akori gripped the bars tightly. "Take me away from here, human." When asked where he would go if rescued, Akori parted his lips. I will follow you." Kadia thought she'd misheard, so she asked again to confirm. Unexpectedly, she met Akori's intensely determined gaze. This time, he truly wanted to leave with her. Kadia wondered why Akori would want to follow her. After all, a dangerous individual like Akori would only bring trouble if she kept him around. Kadia's escape would surely be compromised, so she made an excuse about having to leave, pretending not to have heard what he'd said earlier. However, Akori caught the edge of Kadia's cloak. "You said you were a noble, right? And rich too. Don't tell me you lied to that human called Catherine." "No, that's..." Akori's expression turned serious, his eyes filled with disappointment. "Liar. I told you I wasn't lying." It turned out he'd only called out Catherine's name to get her attention. Fearful of being exposed, Kadia clamped a hand over his mouth. His goal achieved, Akori burst into laughter. He told Kadia to use her wealth to buy him. Kadia refused. She didn't want to get involved with the Knight's Order. "This really isn't my problem, is it?" she thought. Blasco protected the Holy Sword, and he was an enemy of the White Knights, the very order that protected the Holy Sword. If the Holy Sword's wielder was hiding with Blasco, surely something terrible would happen. "I don't have much time left. I can't bring this boy back to Blasco," Kadia blurted out, rejecting Akori's plea. But he seemed determined to have Kadia rescue him from this place, using incredibly sweet words. Kadia was dumbfounded. She never expected such words to come from the mouth of such a valiant warrior. "Just 2 words, sister," Akori said. Kadia's mind began to race. What was he talking about? Akori explained that he'd heard Kadia call Catherine sister, so he decided to do the same. He seemed quite pleased with himself. "If I call you that, I can get what I want, right?" Kadia didn't know how to deal with this awkward situation. She simply waved him off. "Stop saying weird things. I told you I can't help you." Then she ran off alone down the dungeon corridor. Suddenly, she heard the cry of a strange creature. Kadia turned her head cautiously. A meow. Only a few minutes remained. She needed to leave quickly, but out of curiosity, she returned to the front of another cell. Kadia saw a beautiful face. It was a snow leopard locked up inside. Kadia remembered that the divine beast, Achilles' true form was also a giant snow leopard. Although this snow leopard hadn't fully grown yet, it was indeed still quite small. It continuously struck various adorable poses, from licking its fur to stretching out on the floor. Kadia couldn't help but squeal in the dungeon. Even so, Kadia knew Achilles was deliberately trying to tempt her. Then the snow leopard spoke. "Don't buy me. Really, don't buy me." Kadia immediately grasped the snow leopard's paw. "Buy? I will definitely buy you." Achilles, peeking through the bars of the cage, looked satisfied. She petted her new pet incessantly. "So soft, so cute. This is too much. How could I resist? Leaving a cub in such a dangerous place would make me an accomplice. I'll think about the rest later. First, I have to get him out. Come with me, little guy." Meanwhile, in a certain cellar, blood splattered across the floor. Werner and Arnold were cleaning up some unsavory individuals. They paused before a mysterious incident. She said she hasn't seen that sight in a long time. Right. Did no one stop him? Let's threaten the sole survivor with his sword. From now on, you have 1 minute. If you answer truthfully, your family, relatives, and the villagers in your hometown will be safe. You better decide quickly, because Blasco shows no mercy. The silence between the two stretched for only 30 seconds. He spoke, trembling. The arena in the Southern Entertainment District of Central Palame. In the basement, Lord Luz is the mastermind. I don't know. The client's identity is confidential. Lutz immediately pressed his sword against the man's cheek. Seeing his own blood flowing more and more, the man grew even more terrified. It's true. Although they looked like nobles, they hid their identities, so he only received a large down payment. Lutz seemed unconvinced. He thought the ploy was too despicable, unlike a royal scheme. They were trying to prevent him from finding the mastermind. It had to be a branch family. He gritted his teeth harder. They dared to kidnap my adopted daughter and sell her to a fighting arena. Lutz ordered the entire squad to search the entire southern district of Palame. This was the only clue the Duke had left. The child is under Blasco's protection. Even if we have to mobilize all the manpower in the capital, we must find her. Lutz would also head to the southern part of the central district. He assigned a task to Arnold's group. Investigate all the arenas in the vicinity before arriving there. I will find her. The fighting arena buzzed with its usual frenetic energy. The announcer's voice boomed, lavishing praise upon a unique magical creature, boasting of its 14 consecutive victories that very night. Its opponent, a barbarian hailing from the perilous southern wilds. Backstage, the sudden roar of the crowd startled Cedia. She was in the midst of preparations with Catherine, who was disguised as Kadia, receiving instructions for the plan. "Can I escape with that boy?" the young girl asked, her voice small. "I can't get away on my own, so I want to take him with me." Kadia, maintaining her charade, declared her intention to participate in the matches. She produced another gold coin, pressing it into Catherine's hand. "Use this to pay the entry fee. Keep the change. Don't worry, you won't be out of pocket." Catherine accepted the coin, muttering under her breath about whether Claudia truly was child. Money received, Catherine led Claudia aside and explained the rules. As soon as the match begins, the auction starts simultaneously. Once the victor is decided, the highest bidder wins the auction. After payment in the office outside the arena, the winner receives the key to unlock the slave's restraints. Kadia inquired about the possibility of breaking the restraining collar. Catherine shook her head, a grim expression settling on her face. "If you tamper with the collar in any other way, the poison will spread. Even the slightest touch is enough to kill." Ultimately, there was only one way to win. Catherine handed Kadia a magical device for recording the bid amount. When a nickname, rather than a real name, was used, the amount would be written underneath, appearing automatically. "Can I change the amount? Is there a limit to how much I can bid?" Kadia asked. "No, you can't remove it. The highest bid will be updated in real time," Catherine replied. Inside the arena, Catherine pointed towards a large door. "The office is in the 5th corner under those stairs. If you take the emergency exit at the end of that corridor, you can get to the back. Be careful, little one." A surprising warmth bloomed in Kadia's chest. She had never felt such kindness from a stranger. She thanked Catherine profusely. But Catherine, her task complete, hurried away. Suddenly, the arena gates swung open. A wave of spectators surged into the arena. "Thank you. esteemed guests, for joining us today. Especially today, we will be holding an auction to commemorate the final match of the White Divine Beast. We hope you will all participate enthusiastically. A door in the arena creaked open, releasing a palpable wave of murderous intent that made the audience gasp. A hulking butcher of a man emerged, Akori's opponent. From the stands, Kadia anxiously searched for Akori. He was soon thrown down, brutally, unable to even lift his head to meet her gaze. Kadia's lips pressed into a thin, hard line. Are you all insane? How can you treat a child like this? Just you wait. When I get out of here, I'm going to report this place. Finally, Akori rose to his feet and stepped into the arena. His snow-white hair stirred in the fetid air. Around Kadia, the spectators began to murmur excitedly. I want him so badly. A divine beast maintaining human form for so long? Look at that coloring. He must be from the Iclax tribe. Keeping him around would be so entertaining. Claudia felt a pang of sympathy for the creature, but she was powerless to intervene. The whistle blew, signaling the official start of the match between Akori and the butcher. The butcher charged, his massive axe whistling through the air, propelled by brute strength. Fear twisted in Claudia's gut. She worried for Akori's safety. Their conversation from just hours earlier echoed in her mind. Can you finish the match as quickly as possible? She had asked. If I unleash my power, it would be easy, he had replied. Then unleash it. Finish it without getting hurt, because I'm going to buy you. During that time, the Order soldiers beside Akori will immediately cross through time and space after detecting the signal. You can't deal with them. Can't I? Kadia had felt a flicker of disappointment, but she understood Akori's predicament, and she knew that the person before her could fight them if he was fully prepared to betray them. By order, the choice is now yours. Apple 1. Wander aimlessly and be captured as commanded. Apple 2. In this charade and follow me. If you choose me, you will become my guardian, protecting me from all that would seek to harm me. It was a bargain struck in blood and steel. The butcher's roar awakened a hidden power within Akori. He lunged with a murderous intent, the situation so stark that Kadia couldn't bear to watch. She squeezed her eyes shut. Suddenly, a hush fell over the arena. Slowly, Kadia opened her eyes. Akori stood unscathed, having stopped the butcher with a single finger. Her apprehension turned to astonishment. How is this possible? The butcher strained, pushing against Akori's seemingly effortless defense. But the expected miracle didn't happen. Instead, under the immense pressure, the butcher's spearhead shattered. A white mist began to emanate from Akori, the white aura of the snow leopard taking form. He stamped his foot, and cracks spiderwebbed across the arena floor. What is that? Incredible! Murmurs of awe rippled through the crowd, captivated by Akori's impressive display of power. Recognition dawned. He was the ice and snow divine beast. The bidding screen flickered to life, numbers dancing across its surface. The numbers climbed rapidly, reaching a threshold that made Kadia's heart sink. She had naively hoped for a mere 300 gold coins. Reality, it seemed, had other plans. The bidding had already soared to 700 gold coins, far exceeding Kadia's wildest estimations. This first taste of the arena's cutthroat nature jolted her into action. She scrambled to join the bidding war. Limited by her funds, Kadia decided on a cautious strategy, incrementing her bids by a single gold coin above the previous offer. Suddenly, the boisterous laughter of a nearby man, a portly fellow in a brightly colored scarf, caught her attention. Kadia glanced at his bidding paddle, her eyes widening in disbelief. The man had just bid 800 gold coins. Kadia realized this man was her competition, newly rich, perhaps, and clearly unfamiliar with the art of prudent spending. She had no choice but to raise her bid. 810. Surely, she thought, no one would match that. But fate, it seemed, was a fickle mistress. The numbers on the screen climbed beyond her comprehension, from 900 to 1,000, finally, settling at a staggering 1,200. Kadia was stunned. Should she abandon her attempt to acquire Akori? You're a pricey one, aren't you? The butcher lunged again, this time opting for a direct attack. Akori summoned a golden aura around his hands, drawing from it a shimmering lightning sword. The holy sword Heiress, one of the masterpieces of the weapon empire. Kadia finally understood. The release of power Akori had spoken of was this very sword. She worried that its appearance would alert those who knew its significance. Fortunately, they seemed more engrossed in the spectacle of the fight. Akori leveled the sword at the butcher. The man in the scarf beside Kadia wore a peculiar expression, one that suggested a certain familiarity with the holy blade. A knot of fear tightened in Kadia's chest. Did he know Akori's true nature? Was that why he was bidding so aggressively? A more disturbing thought arose. What if he intended to treat Akori, the snow leopard, like a common beast? Kadia gripped her bidding paddle tighter. Akori pressed his attack, driving the butcher back. But she couldn't afford to be distracted. She had to be ready to bid, to fight for Akori until the very end. Under the might of Akori's blade, the butcher was utterly defeated. The crowd roared its approval, and the bidding closed. Minutes later, the final bid flashed across the central screen. The lucky winner, a player named Millionaire Huang Chung, had claimed Akori for the exorbitant sum of 2,000 gold coins. It wasn't surprising that Akori's master was Kadia. I finally did it, she thought, as magical formations, large and small, began appearing in the center of the stands. The bewildered audience had no idea what they were for, but Kadia knew better than anyone. This was the harbinger of the Knight's Order's arrival. Pressure mounted on Akori as a dazzling flash of light shot towards the magical formations. Along with the surrounding crystals, it completely destroyed the emergent portal. Akori returned with a radiant smile, the shackles that had bound him for so long now shattered. He was like a tiger with newfound wings, his gaze fixed on Kadia. She shyly hid her embarrassed expression. Yes, I must have won the bid. There's nothing more to think about. Come here, my 2,000 gold coins well spent. Akori used his power to create a staircase of ice, which he then leisurely ascended. Step by step, he approached the small girl, transforming back into a snow leopard and nestling in her arms. I've got you. Yes. Suddenly, the door to the arena office burst open. The startled owner, thinking a thief had broken in, was surprised to see only a small girl. Kadia had come to pay after winning Akori. The incredulous owner hurriedly checked the list, astonished that a child still smelling of milk had won the bidding. Kadia showed the owner her display board and urged, "Aren't you going to take the money? Hurry up and take it and give me the key." After checking and finding everything in order, the owner handed Kadia the key, which the little girl snatched up. She and the snow leopard then left the office, leaving the bewildered owner alone. Walking down the dark corridor, Kadia struggled to unlock the shackles on Akori's legs. The shackles are off. We have to get out of here quickly. Trouble struck. The emergency exit was blocked, and several strangers appeared there. Sensing danger, Kadia hid in a safe place, faintly hearing them frantically searching for her and Akori. What do we do now? How do we get out? Which way do we go? After running for a while, Kadia grew tired, staring into the darkness ahead. Exhausted, Kadia collapsed. It seemed like it was all over. She finally fainted in the corridor. Noticing the commotion, the strange man Kadia had encountered earlier went to the administrative office, but it was empty. In the distance, he heard people talking to each other. Don't lose them. They can't have gone far. Go find them. The man chuckled. It seems the little millionaire girl has run off. What's the rumor, Blasco? I heard she's the heir to that family. The king of the Ice Lands, a direct descendant of the divine beast Tyclers, and Akori is the last hybrid in decades, captured by the White Knight's Order. Taming that little devil must have been difficult. Regardless, I spent a fortune bringing him here, so I trust she'll know how to take good care of him. Orange-haired girl, we'll meet again soon. Back with Kadia, the little girl had awakened from her faint, only to find herself held tightly by a man who demanded, "What happened back there? Looking so disheveled all night. Who did this to you?" It was Lutz, who had been searching for his adopted daughter all night. His words stung a little. Kadia's lip trembled, and then she burst into tears. Werner and Arnold also found the little girl. "Are you all right, child? Are you hurt anywhere?" Arnold held Kadia tightly, relieved to have found her. "I'm fine. Get off, Arnold. Restrain your aura, come on." Everyone's aura was flaring. "Why is everyone so angry?" Lutz immediately asked, "Child, do you remember anything that happened from yesterday until now?" "I was kidnapped." It was clear to Kadia Kadia that everyone was here because of her, including Jimian and the others. Lutz sighed. I don't know what to do with you, little cotton ball. Enough, Lutz ordered. Secretly take away the key figures involved. The rest can be handed over to security for arrest. How dare they operate in a legal arena in the heart of the capital? Their audacity is astounding. The troops under his command immediately carried out the order. Kadia spoke up. I need to pay the reward I promised to a sister who helped us at the arena. She's the one who made it possible for me to participate in the auction and escape. Lutz, intensely curious about the orange-haired girl's actions throughout the night, was interrupted by Akori's sudden cry. The situation quickly deteriorated. It turned out Akori was suffocating. He burst forth from beneath the girl's cloak. The moment he emerged, he gasped for air as if he had never breathed before. Lutz stared, stunned, for 3 full seconds. What is this? A divine beast? Indeed, the Duke has a keen eye. You participated in the auction because of it. Lutz pressed. Yes, because I couldn't bear to leave him there. Lutz gritted his teeth. Even small, it's still a divine beast. Do you intend to keep it as an ornament? Kadia could only giggle, unsure how to respond. Finally, she said she wanted to raise him. Furthermore, she promised to raise him discreetly, like an heir, taking care of everything from feeding to bathing and walks. The girl's earnest aura swayed Lutz. Finally, he allowed the girl to have her way. I'll give you the money, so you know what to do. Are you joking? Why did you agree so easily? And Huang Chung. Yes. From now on, you must get my permission to go out. Kadia immediately caught up with him. I'm sorry, sir. I won't ever involve you in something like this again. There's no need. From now on, you won't have any such places to go. Lutz gently patted the girl's head, still reeling from the commotion Blasco had caused. Have you eaten anything? Claudia, once again moved, thought, what should I do? The Duke and the others, they seemed genuinely worried about me. I never thought I'd receive such care. My heart is overflowing. Then Lutz took his leave. Well then, let's go home, little one. Yes. The next morning, Kadia awoke in her palace room, her breakfast as lavish as ever. This is too much. These are the Duke's orders. Please eat more, Mississippi. Where are Margaret and Rosa? Come to think of it, she hadn't seen Sybil or Blasco either. The maid explained they were at the training camp as punishment for failing to protect her. But don't worry too much, they'll be back in about 10 days. Kadia, though apprehensive, knew the underground training camp was like a prison camp for punishing offenders. She'd heard that those who harmed Blasco were dragged away without exception. Are they all right? After finishing breakfast, Kadia returned to her beloved bed. Hearing those horror stories, I think my nose will be stuffed up with rice. Hey, even if you feel stuffy, you have to maintain this form, okay? If they find out you're Haraya's master, you won't be able to stay here. Akori seemed unconvinced, displaying blatant disdain that irritated Kadia. Just as she began to scold him, the snow leopard nipped her finger. Hey, that 2,000 gold coins. Am I talking to a wall? Are you playing deaf? Surprisingly, the snow leopard climbed down from the bed. Kadia wondered what he was planning. Suddenly, he shifted into human form before her very eyes. I prefer human form. Not only that, but Akori even dared to glare at his benefactor. Akori explained to Kadia, my body hasn't fully matured yet, so the divine beast form is inconvenient. Kadia sighed. If that were the case, she would simply point to the door and send Akori away. Whether he was caught by the knight's order or dragged back to the arena, he could take care of himself. The two faced off, locked in a silent battle of wills. Akori criticized Kadia, accusing her of being cold and heartless, a fairy in appearance only. Kadia, unyielding, retorted that he, too, looked like an angel, but possessed an equally strange personality. The back and forth continued until they both grew tired of even looking at each other. Suddenly, Akori broke the silence. He shyly thanked her for saving his yoni. Kadia, speechless for a moment, corrected him. It wasn't Yoni but Nuna. Since he was a boy, he should call his older sister Nuna. This sparked Akori's curiosity about Kadia's age. She replied that she was 10. Akori, with a touch of pride, boasted that he was 51. Kadia was stunned into silence. She hadn't expected Akori to be so old, practically an old man. Then she remembered that divine beasts matured into their adult forms at a very young age. Their infancy was short, their childhood long, and their adolescence stretched for tens of thousands of years. If they lived that long, 51 was actually quite young, wasn't it? With this thought, Kadia told Akori to just call her by her name. She introduced herself, Kadia Ainsley. Ainsley is my family name. Akori's expression suddenly froze. and he fell silent. Then, in a low voice, he murmured the name Katia. What a beautiful name, Akori suddenly complimented. Now in brighter spirits, he introduced himself. I am Akori, as you probably already know. Kadia thought to herself, did he really know? Then Akori abruptly spoke. Suddenly, Akori stood up. He asked Kadia, his voice taking on a dangerous edge. Who do you want me to deal with? Kadia was confused, unsure why Akori would ask such a question. Akori explained, you set the condition that I must protect you, right? He pressed further. Are you being threatened by someone? Tell me. It won't take long. Well, Siebel, he's been watching me, and he's at the training camp right now. Kadia began, but hesitated. Before she could finish, Akori bolted out the window. Kadia rushed to stop him, telling Akori to let her finish. She hadn't told him to kill Siebel immediately, had she? With no other choice, Akori returned to hear Kadia out. First, we have to watch him, she explained, because he's suspected of bribing someone to kidnap me. We can't take this lightly. Akori understood. The enemy wasn't just a few individuals. That's right. If we want to catch them all, we have to wait for the right moment. Kadia affirmed. Akori nodded in understanding. Watching his impulsive behavior, Kadia thought to herself that while Akori wasn't difficult to persuade, he was completely unaware of what he was doing. Protecting something isn't difficult because it's my mission, Akori declared, piquing Kadia's curiosity. What mission? Akori explained that he had been guarding the Order for 51 years, and the Order's master had told him it was his mission. Kadia countered, do you even know what a mission is? It's the purpose of birth, the reason for living, and the meaning of death, Akori stated. Kadia was surprised. A child who couldn't even distinguish between Yoni and Nuna was uttering such profound words. Suddenly, Kadia's sharp eyes noticed something amiss. There was a long scar on Akori's neck, a detail she didn't recall being described in the original story. In the original story, that is, the world she came from, Blasco had always been portrayed as utterly evil, like magic itself, while Niella and the White Order were the opposite, absolute good. However, both Blasco and the Order were far from their original depictions. The White Order had tamed Akori and used him as a shield for over 50 years. Kadia called out to Akori, then gently got out of bed. She smiled. Let's be friends, she proposed. Akori didn't quite understand. Kadia explained, being friends means always being there for each other when you're lonely, sharing sadness and joy, and always helping each other when things get tough. So, friends always stay by each other's side. Akori wondered, always? Kadia thought, as long as they didn't betray each other, it would probably be that long. All right, Akori agreed. Kadia saw that his mood seemed to have brightened considerably. They shook hands, a silent promise of harmony hanging in the air. Kadia, inwardly elated, realized that from this moment forward, she was officially the childhood friend of the male lead. Night deepened, and tucked into bed, Kadia wished Akori good night, reminding him to shift back into his snow leopard form. Kadia woke with a start the next morning to find Akori snuggled up beside her, claiming he wanted to sleep there. She yanked the blankets towards herself, refusing. Men and women shouldn't sleep together. Besides, she added defensively, I'm a terrible bedmate. But you said we'd always be by each other's side. Akori sulked. That's not what I meant, you little brat. Kadia retorted, exasperated. Akori, now even more indignant, called her a liar. Kadia had successfully managed to offend a snow leopard. Left with little choice, Kadia compromised, but not without setting a condition. Even if you get kicked by my feet, you can't blame me, okay? At this, Akori's mood instantly brightened. If that's the case, he replied excitedly, I'll revert to my four-legged form. Kadia fumed internally. Who did I spend 2,000 gold coins on just to have them take up space in my bed in the middle of the night? Kadia drifted into a deep sleep. Suddenly, the necklace around her neck began to shimmer. A wave of heat jolted Kadia awake. She stared in astonishment as the gem on her necklace unfurled, and it pulsed with an intense light. Kadia looked around, realizing the light was emanating from the typewriter. She gazed at it, bewildered. A line of text appeared on the screen. Do you wish to continue? Kadia wondered if this signaled a new chapter. Chapter 169, as it stood now, felt like something out of fairy tale. Morning found the three members of the Blasco family seated in the study, their expressions grim. Lutz delivered his report, stating that the source of the rumors seemed to be the Lytton district, where where the late Duke and Kadia had resided. Apparently, neighbors had witnessed Kadia boarding the Blasco family carriage. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say the rumors had spread like wildfire throughout the capital. Lutz couldn't guarantee that another kidnapping attempt, like the one yesterday, wouldn't occur. Arnold spoke up. Therefore, the best course of action is for Kadia to adopt the Blasco surname as soon as possible, so she can officially receive the family's protection. What about postponing the exam schedule and reducing the difficulty? While I'm aware the collateral branches will object, they're truly and utterly unreliable, Arnold suggested. Lutz agreed. It's highly suspicious, especially after what Kadia said yesterday. Kadia told me we should perhaps investigate Siebel for the vault key. Someone stole it, and his behavior at the time was extremely suspicious, Lutz revealed. Upon hearing this, Lutz immediately ordered a search of Siebel, who was being held at the training camp. However, they found no vault key. His recent behavior hadn't been overtly suspicious, but Kadia wouldn't have said such a thing without reason. Lutz proposed they replace the supervisor first. The authority over all Magic Stone import operations, currently managed by Kim Blasco, will be transferred to the main house. The other two men looked visibly pleased at this news. If Kim Blasco were to learn of this decision, he would likely gnash his teeth and beg Lutz to reconsider. Lutz felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. Dealing with the royal family was enough of a headache. Now he had to be wary of the collateral branches as well. Suddenly, Lutz noticed Werner's continued silence. Why so quiet? Don't you have any input to add? Lutz asked Werner. Werner hesitated. I just don't want to appear to be seeking personal gain before the exam is over. Shouldn't the exam be fair? That way, rumors won't spread. Arnold countered. What good will it do if we're injured before the exam even begins? Werner calmly replied. Of course, we must put preventative measures in place against them. He then turned to Arnold, a curious glint in his eye. Conversely, I've been wondering, when did you start to become so fond of little Kadia? It's quite obvious Arnold is after your vault, isn't it? These words ignited Arnold's temper. Are you jealous, Werner? He sneered. Werner shot back. How could you even think of exploiting that little girl? You're truly heartless. I like her because she's smart, cute, and well-behaved. You wouldn't understand because you've never really talked to Kadia, Arnold retorted. Werner felt a pang of guilt, remembering how he'd mistaken Kadia for a servant and inadvertently revealed everything to her. Unable to confess the truth, he stammered, "We have plenty of shared secrets, definitely more than you." Arnold pressed on. Really? That little dog even kissed me. Werner's jaw dropped. Arnold, smug in his belief that he was the only one in the family Kadia had kissed, basked in the perceived victory. Werner sputtered. So what? I'm just pointing out your inconsistent attitude towards bribery. Lutz, seated beside them, looked on in bewilderment. Do they always bicker this much? He wondered. The argument raged on, Arnold pointing a finger at Werner. You're clearly jealous of Kadia because she's getting attention from our dear father. In fact, you want to be recognized as the heir by father, don't you? Isn't this all stemming from your inferiority complex? The words struck Werner like icy daggers, leaving him trembling with anger as Arnold continued his relentless provocation. He continued bluntly, so you must be content with being second best then. It's obvious you're always just a little bit short of losing, yet you insist on a rematch. Isn't that your inferiority complex talking? Werner retorted. Unable to endure his son's escalating quarrel any longer, Lutz slammed his teacup on the table, silencing them with his fury. He glared at them both. Do you realize who you are shouting at? Werner and Arnold, startled by Lutz's icy question, lowered their heads, apologizing for their disrespectful behavior. Lutz reminded them that the heir examination would proceed as planned. As the successors to the deceased Duke, the Blasco family's direct lineage verification process would not tolerate any form of cheating. His recent actions haven't been suspicious, but Kadia wouldn't say such things without reason, Lutz mused. Turning to his sons, he instructed, from now on, if Kadia goes out, one of the three of you must accompany her. Neither son objected, so Lutz concluded the conversation and rang for Jimmy. What is Orange doing now? Lutz inquired. The knight beside him hesitated before answering. A sense of foreboding washed over Lutz. He immediately set off to find Kadia. Reaching her door, he heard the sound of sobbing coming from within. Kadia was clutching the snow leopard, crying inconsolably. Lutz asked, his voice laced with concern, "Why are you crying like this?" The startled maid replied, "I don't know the reason. Miss hasn't said anything." Kadia continued to weep without a word. Lost in thought, Lutz suddenly exclaimed, "Orange, He pulled a handkerchief from his breast pocket. Crying like this so early in the morning, Lutz muttered, vigorously wiping Kadia's face, startling the maid, who rushed forward to intervene. Kadia, utterly bewildered, remained silent. Lutz ordered someone to prepare water for washing and then scooped Kadia into his arms. He tended to her with surprising gentleness, telling her not to let her nose get blocked and helping her wash her face. The maid watched in astonishment at Lutz's practiced parenting skills. After a while, Kadia's face was clean. Kadia apologized shyly for wiping her nose on Lutz's hand, an act he didn't deny. Returning to the matter at hand, he asked, "Why were you crying? Did you have a nightmare?" At the mere mention of it, fresh tears welled up in Kadia's eyes. Clutching her skirt, she trembled as she spoke. It wasn't a dream. Someone really died. Lutz's expression turned serious. "Who?" he asked, recalling that none of those sent to the training camp had perished. The maid standing nearby offered an explanation. "Miss must have found the nightmare too real. That's why she thinks it's true. Why don't you take her for a walk, Duke?" Lutz looked at her quizzically. "Why me?" The maid replied firmly, "Because Miss is crying, sir. You could have taken her yourselves." Lutz glanced at the others present. Jimmy muttered in the night. How could Luce be so cold-hearted? Luce, of course, heard him. "Do you think I would do such a thing?" he snapped, indignant. "Preposterous. Mind your own business. Go work in the greenhouse garden now." Despite his outburst, Luce eventually found himself carrying Kadia as they strolled. He hadn't expected to be in her company again so soon. He'd just given her a bath, something he'd never done before. Suddenly, Oki, the snow leopard, bounded forward, snapping at Luce's trousers. "Oki, don't bite the Duke!" Kadia cried out. Luce's expression darkened. Kadia is different today, he thought. What can I do to put her at ease? With a decisive push, Luce opened the greenhouse door. Kadia gasped, taking in the opulent scene within the greenhouse. "All of this belongs to you, Kadia," Luce declared, gesturing for her to look around. "All of this is mine?" she asked, incredulous. "This is part of the late Duke's art collection, bequeathed in your name," Luce explained. "These are all famous paintings, worth a fortune." Kadia was utterly captivated. "Thankfully, she's easily pleased," Luce mused. Then, a darker thought followed. If someone offered her money, she wouldn't be mercenary, but she might follow them, mesmerized. Suddenly, Kadia let out a small cry of excitement and ran towards Luce, calling out to him. "I want to look closely at that painting up there," she exclaimed, pointing. She stretched out her arms, her bright eyes fixed on Luce. "Does she want me to lift her up?" he wondered. Looking into Kadia's innocent, luminous eyes, a pang of nostalgia struck Luce. Unable to resist her charm, he bent down and hoisted Kadia onto his shoulders. She pointed excitedly towards the painting. "It's a true masterpiece of the era," she declared. Luce froze, his gaze following her pointed finger. The painting depicted a radiant, handsome young man. The face was, undeniably, a younger version of Luce himself. "This person is so handsome," Kadia exclaimed. "This is definitely the best painting here." The sight of the painting stirred something within Luce. He hadn't expected it to be hanging here. "This painting looks so old," Kadia said, her brow furrowed in curiosity. "But why do you still look the same? Did you use an elixir of immortality? Does it really look that much like me?" Luce thought, taken aback. "Isn't it exactly the same?" "It's you," Kadia insisted. Luce let out a self-deprecating chuckle. "Well, there couldn't be two people like that in the world. How old were you then?" Kadia asked. "Around 27, I suppose," Luce replied, his mind already working. "I need to distract her. There's more in the family history exhibit room. We'll visit it next time. Will all of those be mine too?" Kadia asked, her eyes wide with excitement. "Yes," Luce answered, "but in return, don't tell anyone what you've seen here. National treasures are also displayed here, and if word gets out, they might be stolen." Kadia's eyes widened in alarm at his warning. She quickly covered her mouth, promising to keep the secret. Satisfied he'd successfully diverted her attention, Luce suggested she go out to the garden. Kadia skipped off to the garden with a Cory. Left alone, Luce stared at the painting, muttering under his breath, "Masterpiece of the era." He struck a match, then casually tossed the burning flame onto the canvas. His expression remained impassive as he watched the flames rise, a vision of opulent nobility flickering before his eyes. "Why are your eyes drooping?" Oki asked Kadia. "They're just a little swollen," she replied listlessly, a veil of sadness over her. Oki, still unconvinced, pressed her again. Can you see what's ahead? Kadia poked Oki, forcing a playful tone. You're so noisy. But her gaze, fixed on Oki, held an immeasurable sadness, as if something unspoken weighed heavily on her heart. The grief lingered, palpable and overwhelming. Kadia lowered her head, tears welling up. Who died? She thought. Let me compose myself, and then I'll tell you. Pain, regret, and loneliness were etched clearly in her eyes. Kadia reflected on the entire incident. The person who died in the original story was herself. Perhaps she was already dead. She retraced the narrative, starting from Achilles' words that she was already dead, implying her non-existence 10 years later. A long time ago, she even remembered Achilles' words. Even now, he was still deceiving her about Niella Kadia Ainsley. Even in her confusion, she desperately explained, "Calm down, Achilles, you're losing your composure." More worried than ever, sweat dripped from her brow. Had he discovered something? But Achilles couldn't possibly know. Achilles turned around and declared loudly, "From the very beginning, I wasn't qualified to be Gust's master. Although I felt strange, I didn't expect you to deceive me like this." Achilles shouted angrily, "How could you use me like this? You used me as a sacrifice for Gust, and then shamelessly came to me." His grip tightened. Achilles was furious. Even though Claudia was a girl, he still held her tightly. She was in immense pain, struggling to breathe, unable to control her body. Achilles completely overpowered her. He said, "You have to be prepared to pay the price for your actions, right?" Back in reality, Kadia was in a daze. As she recalled these things, she was startled. She was saddened, her eyes thoughtful and fearful. "Niella, what are you hiding? Why would Achilles react that way?" 100,000 questions flashed through Kadia's mind. What kind of plot was this? In romance novels, shouldn't the hero and heroine live happily ever after? Kadia pondered, suppose it does have a happy ending eventually. However, in the end I die. I don't know when or under what circumstances. Without any preparation, what should I do? She felt cornered, trapped in a desperate situation. Suddenly, a pale hand appeared, touching Kadia's skirt. It was Achilles, his voice unusually warm and soothing. "Is something bothering you, Kadia?" Seeing this, she was moved to tears. This was completely different from the future in the novel. The current Achilles was breathtakingly beautiful, innocent, and handsome. If so, can you help me scold them? I've told you many times, just point out who they are. If not now, even if it takes years, I will definitely deal with them. I'll do it the way you want. She thought, the way I want? Then can you go see the author and ask what kind of plot this is? Achilles was confused. Author. Kadia was dissatisfied and sighed dejectedly. Forget it, Kadia thought, but the Achilles in the original story was also saddened by my death. The book didn't elaborate, so I don't know if there's any connection in this world. I'm talking about Darcel, not Niella, so this will be different from the original. Within 5 years, until Niella appears, unless I die, Achilles loses his memory of me. Suddenly, Kadia cupped Achilles' cheeks. Achilles was completely stunned. They looked at each other, blushing shyly. Kadia spoke softly and gently. "Never let me die, Achilles." Achilles held Kadia's soft hand. "As long as I'm here, you don't have to be afraid." Achilles continued, "If you don't abandon me, I will protect you." Kadia seemed smitten with these sweet words. She replied happily and cheerfully, "Yes, all right, let's trust Achilles. At least this little guy won't betray me." A magnificent and spectacular scene unfolded before their eyes. At the center was a majestic castle, flanked by lush greenery. The maids chatted happily with each other. It had been 10 days since they returned to autumn. Kadia was more hurried than ever. "Hurry up and catch it, Aki." The ball hit Aki directly on the head. Kadia shouted angrily again. "Again, be careful. My arms are sore from always having to carry you around everywhere." Aki felt tired. "Someone else was holding me yesterday." Aki recounted what happened last night. Kadia had slept on him and then left him alone. Aki said indignantly. He continued, "Leaving me alone, not caring about me at all." Kadia sighed wearily. "Listen, it's also your duty to play with me." "Well, I'm grateful just to be alive and safe," Kadia mused. "Everyone in the house adores him, though, saying how cute he is. Luckily, Akori seems to like it here too." Achilles, however, sulked slightly, a pout forming on his lips. Jamie and Parker approached Kadia, startling her. "Oh yes," she responded. "It seems we have to go in." Akori quickly snatched up a nearby ball. With a serious expression, one of them announced, "The second dare examination has been decided." Kadia gasped. "Already? So, Clasping her hands together, she inquired, "The second and third tests will be decided at the council meeting? What will they entail?" Jamie and Parker paused, a pregnant silence hanging in the air. Akori trotted over to Kadia. "What's wrong?" he asked. Suddenly, a wave of terror washed over Kadia, her face etched with panic and worry. She cried out, "Oh my God, they're going to send me there." Within the castle, Claudia was in a meeting. Let's Blasco address the group. The topic for today. Do you remember when Claudia was only 10? Someone interjected. Cousin Shun, age is just a number. Just like Werner and Arnold. Even if they went there at 10, they could handle it easily. If she truly has the direct lineage, 3 days should be enough for her pass. Fear was palpable in the room, heavy as the autumn air over the savannah. Not only are there endangered magical creatures living there, another voice added, but also all sorts of ferocious and rare divine beasts and magical beasts, even zombies. No one except the Duke has ever set foot there, and rumor has it that anyone who disobeys the Blascos is thrown into the savannah instead of prison. It's quite an ideal location for the second test, Lutz declared. It not only tests physical strength, but also survival skills and crisis management abilities. Another voice protested, "Don't be ridiculous. Every child's talent is different. Judging solely on physical strength is too narrow-minded. Look, that kind of child is a dime a dozen." Suddenly, Kadia's hand shot up, her voice demanding to be heard. Lutz, startled, noticed her raised hand. With unwavering determination, Kadia declared, "I accept this test." The old man with golden hair nodded. Since the person involved agrees, there's no need for further discussion. I will announce the test rules as soon as possible. Kadia cheered, her excitement bubbling over. "Yay, I'm really looking forward to going to the savannah." The formidable old man chuckled. "Yes, look forward to it, little girl. It will be very interesting, even better than that damn dog training camp where my son is still locked up." He patted Cody's head. "Don't get complacent just because you have a little potential. Once you step onto the savannah, you'll understand your limitations." Kadia lowered her head, a flicker of worry crossing her face. Then, with a surge of newfound confidence, she lifted her chin and declared, "Thank you for your advice, sir. I'll do my best." The old man stormed out, grumbling, "Well, let's see how far you can go." Kadia clenched her fists, a steely glint in her eyes. "I'll show you firsthand who gets kicked out by the Blascos." Sunlight streamed into the lovely, luxurious bedroom. Kadia turned to Akori. "So, shall we get ready?" Akori tilted his head, puzzled. "Ready for what?" "Kadia, what do you need prepare for?" he said. "Just bring me along." But then, Akori nuzzled closer to Kadia. "Don't you trust me?" Kadia was taken aback. Of course, I trust you," she replied. "You're the one I trust most in this world. You're everything to me." Akori puffed out his cheeks. "Really? Kadia, honestly, you're getting clingier." Akori embraced Kadia, whispering, "I trust you too, Kadia." A blush crept up the young girl's cheeks. "Well, okay. So, wait for me," she said. "I'll be right back." Akori's voice was laced with concern. "Where are you going?" "Let me go with you." "I'll be right back," Kadia reassured him, her voice echoing Claudia's earlier words. "Just a moment." Akori clutched at her skirt. I hate it when you disappear from my side, even for a second." A mixture of bewilderment and amusement flickered across Kadia's face. "Oh, you're such a nuisance," she teased. "You get anxious if I leave even for a second. Well, even a divine beast should learn to be independent." Akori cried out, "What? I'm sorry, Aki, but time won't stop, not even for a second. How could I possibly bring a main character like you to a place that exists within the original story?" So the new chapter hasn't opened yet. Chapter 168 opened after I became the Demon Sword successor, and Chapter 169 opened after I brought back Achilles. If that's the case, the next chapter will open when something that originally belonged to Niella Kadia Ainsley is revealed, since inheriting the Demon Sword and attracting Achilles were originally Niella's parts. If this theory is correct, the new plot will unfold after I'm adopted. In which chapter did Niella officially enter the Blasco family? Kadia's eyes lit up. Found it. Niella's naturalization test papers. Unlike the scattered settings used in the previous volumes, the content of this test is exactly the same as the original. Our present is just like magic, Chapter 169. If that's the case, Savannah will also be attacked, just like in this volume, to prevent me from passing the test. They must have taken action beforehand. All I have is the original work and my mind. Let's devise a secret plan, not only for defense, but also for counterattack. The familiar room reappeared, decorated attractively and beautifully. Arnold and Blasco exclaimed. Throw that girl into the wilderness. She'll be eaten alive and won't last a day. Kadia retorted. I'll find a cave and hide carefully. Lutz said, what if we add a clause to the contract allowing her to bring food and drinks? I also have a divine beast companion. Arnold and Lutz said nervously. She can also bring magic stones to communicate the situation, but she can only operate within the designated area. Lutz pleaded with Kadia. You can leave now. We need to rearrange the necessary clauses first, starting with the lifting of restrictions on the weapons and magical tools she could possess. Kadia tugged on Lutz's sleeve as if she wanted to say something. He asked what's wrong. She replied innocently, can the young duke do that too? Lutz asked, puzzled, do what? She replied, in the special clauses, I also want to add one, something I want. 3 days later, at the Los Blasco villa, Lutz handed the revised rule sheet to Kadia. Here, these are the revised rules. Please confirm them. Kadia took the paper and carefully read the contents. The survival time in Savannah was 7 days. The examinee needed to pass through 2 checkpoints and reach the finish line within 7 days. In case of emergency, the examinee could request rescue from the administrators outside Savannah. Kadia thought, the privileges I requested must be more important than these other things. Will the collateral relatives agree to these terms? Article 4. There are no restrictions on the method of passing the route. Article 5. In case of emergency, the examination can be declared invalid with the authorization of the Patriarch. Upon reading Article 5, Kadia suddenly frowned. Article 6. The examinee has the right to choose an additional person besides the 12 supervisors. Kadia exclaimed, all right, successfully applied for supervisor insertion. This gives me a greater advantage. It seems the Duke put a lot of thought into this. I didn't expect him to be so kind to me. Claudia spoke up. Duke, are you worried about me? Of course not. But Lutz pinched Kadia's cheek. Now look at me. Do I look worried? Ever since you came to this house, I've been worried day and night. Hearing Lutz say this, Kadia felt happy inside. So he was thinking of me. I must do my best not to bother everyone. In Arnold's forge, Arnold and Lutz held up a detector and instructed Kadia. Understood? Don't try to confront them unnecessarily. When this detector lights up, run. This is a pheromone spray that eliminates human scent. Spray it every 3 hours. What else? All right, weapons. Kadia, seeing Alina hurriedly preparing everything for her, was overjoyed. It's so nice to have a beautiful older sister taking care of me like this. These gloves are tipped with a deadly poison. If you see anything attacking, just press firmly. A single backhand will be enough to kill it. And one more thing, this spear's length has been adjusted to suit you. I also set it to enhance your aura and make it lighter. Kadia thought, wait, you're saying you added a level 3 defensive magic circle, and it's already complete? Carving magic directly onto a weapon was considered the most difficult technique in metallurgy. In the original novel, Arnold always failed. Even as an adult, Kadia's eyes teared up with emotion. To give her a hint, I gave her the reviewed blueprints with the legendary metallurgy secrets. But since you gave me the blueprints and instructions, it succeeded in such a short time, despite lacking one material. It was only level 3, but Kadia pouted her lips and called Arnold's sister. Later, when you open your forge, remember to put my name down in the investor column, okay? A 70-30 profit split. No, 80-20 works too. Let's start a business together. Arnold didn't understand what Kadia was suddenly talking about. Arnold scolded Kadia. How are you going to survive in the savannah if you're this distracted? As long as you come out unscathed, I'll do 50-50. Just come back without a single injury. For every injury, I'll reduce the percentage. Kadia picked up the spear and offered it to her. I'll come back safe and sound, just as I went in. Thank you so much, sister. At first, Kadia had wanted Arnold to be her proctor, but asking for too much made her conscience uneasy, so she decided to give up. Just then, Kadia saw Werner passing by. If that's the case, as expected, there's only one person left. Kadia ran over. Hello, young master. Werner said to Kadia, you're so calm, so relaxed, even though the exam is tomorrow. Kadia ignored Werner's words, as she was now thinking about how to invite Werner. How should I ask? Please be my proctor. Please be my proctor. Werner continued. Have you chosen your proctor? You said you wanted to decide for yourself, so this is my chance. Yes, actually, I have someone in mind. Werner asked Kadia. Oh, Kadia whispered in her heart, "You, it's you." Then Kadia hinted to Werner, "It's Blasco's most handsome and outstanding prosecutor, although he's a bit rough. He's passionate, most outstanding. She probably wouldn't choose the head of the family, right? Is it Mr. Hagel or Keith Lucas? He's also highly capable, quite knowledgeable about the savannah, and cautious. Choosing one of the three should be fine, right?" Werner's reply annoyed Kadia. "He's so clueless. I need you." Werner handed Kadia a summoning stone. "Take this. If anything strange happens, break it immediately." Kadia immediately asked, "What is this?" "A summoning stone. If it's broken, it'll activate instantaneous teleportation." Kadia cherished the summoning stone with delight. "Wow, so you'll come save me? Once I'm in danger," Werner continued, "if possible, don't even think about using it. It's only for the worst-case scenario. Keep it a secret from Arnold and the head of the family. Be careful not to let the collateral line find out." Kadia thanked Werner after hearing this. "I thought he still didn't like me, but he's helping me like this. If I have a summoning stone, I don't necessarily need Werner as my proctor." So, based on the nominations, Kadia immediately went to ask Lucas, a knight belonging to Blasco, which surprised him. "You want me to be your proctor?" "Yes. While I'm taking the test, I want you to be nearby, observing the other proctors, especially the mage managing the savannah. I hope you don't think this is just a child's whim." Although Sir Lucas is only a minor character who appears briefly in the original story, he's an upright and cautious knight. Niella, the original protagonist, is also the only person in the story who didn't show any goodwill or malice. To entrust this important role, I need someone trustworthy and impartial for my safety. If you can protect me, I'll give you any reward. Lucas looked at Kadia for a moment and accepted. "I will obey you. I don't need any reward. Thanks to Sir Huggin, who once saved my life, I've settled in Blasco for quite some time. Since you are the heir personally adopted by Sir Huggin, although I don't know why you chose me, I believe there must be a reason." Kadia's eyes, bright with sincerity, met Lucas's. "Thank you. I'll never forget how you helped me that next day. Everything's ready. It's time for Kadia to face it." Before their departure, everyone showered Kadia with provisions. "Miss, this is a flame attack stone. If you hit any rock with it, it will explode. This is a toxicity discerning slime. If you happen to pick up something like a mushroom, remember to let it try it first. And this is a sleeping bag with a warming spell. I specially ordered the extra small size." Claudia struggled to accept each item, overwhelmed by the sheer quantity. "Thank you, everyone. How can I carry so much?" Suddenly, Lutz appeared and took all the items from Kadia's hands. "Give them to me. Put them back in the backpack. I've already cast a spatial expansion spell on it. Just reach into the backpack and call out the item you're looking for, and you'll be able to get it. Let's place the hat on Kadia's head. The sun in the savannah is intense, so you must wear this. If anything happens, call Lucas immediately for help. Don't be foolish and try to endure it, understand?" Kadia looked at Lutz with affection. "Yes, I understand. Just think of it as a picnic or something. I'm just worried about these things." "Oh, and the Duke." Before Lutz could reply, Kadia handed him a key. "Oh, Duke, this is the key to the Astroka Central Bank Vault. I've reset it, and all vault deposits and withdrawals are from the years 403 and 437. No matter how I think about it, it's all very strange. Who on earth kidnapped me in the capital? I would never underestimate or antagonize the Blasco branch family, but I think we should consider the worst-case scenario." Kadia recalled the day she was locked in the dungeon. "What happened to me isn't important, but this is the direct line's credibility, so you only check the overall details of the vault from time to time." Suddenly, Lutz pinched Kadia's cheek again. "What about you? Go on. We'll talk about the rest when you get back. I'll put this key to good use, don't worry." Kadia replied cheerfully. "Right, it's time for the second exam. Let's go." Deep into the forest, Kadia looked around. The proctors and administrators were waiting at the savannah's entrance. "Good. I'm glad they're not inside the savannah." Kadia reminded Akori to slow down. "It'll be suspicious if we pass through right away. We have to take our time before we go. I've been wanting to stretch my body for a while now," Kadia continued. "It's okay to take it easy, but don't kill those animals. They're the Duke's favorite pets." Although Niella passed the test safely, her ranking dropped even further because she killed the savannah's animals. "My goal isn't just to pass the exam, but to gain something from it. Let's see this crisis as an opportunity to solidify my position." Akori said to Kadia, "I won't kill any innocent creatures, no matter what." Kadia replied, Good. Let's pass through peacefully, and you'll make new friends. Akori stopped abruptly. New friends? Do you need more friends besides me? Kadia looked at Akori. The more friends, the better. Oh, and if you find any mutated species, tell me before attacking. As soon as she finished speaking, Kadia gasped. This is the entrance to the savannah. A white light emanated, and Kadia closed her eyes in fear. Oh my goodness, mutated species are flying around in the sky. This is the real savannah. The Duke said this is an artificial space, employing 12 senior mages from the Magic Academy. This is Astroka's true magical treasury. He has super scary hobbies. Akori felt uneasy and called out to Kadia. Everything in front of my eyes is spinning. Am I poisoned? Kadia immediately said, it's because it's too hot. Akori tossed and turned. I want to go outside. I don't want to stay here anymore. Claudia whispered to Akori. No, we have to stay here for at least 5 days. Hearing Claudia say, when we rest, let's find a place like a cave, Akori immediately scooped Claudia up. A cave? Let's go right now. I told you we can't go that fast. Akori grumbled, tossing Kadia into the air. Hey, Akori, wait. The first camp is near the thorn bushes to the west. Akori swiftly caught Kadia and ran incredibly fast. Lying in Akori's arms, Claudia felt dizzy. So dizzy, this transportation service is terrible. Claudia's eyes widened at the sight of something strange. What is that? My skin is burning. I can feel an evil energy coming from it. This isn't normal at all. After some deduction, Kadia realized it was a mutated species. In the original story, Niella faced 3 types of enemies. 1. Assassins from the branch family. 2. Uncooperative proctors. And finally, 3. Mutated species. Especially the mutated species. They were creatures that had lost their minds, fallen beings with only bloodthirsty instincts. Niella encountered a giant mutated sack snake, but just looking around, there were already 20 of them. So many. Kadia turned and clung tightly to Akori, nearly suffocating him. Kadia screamed incessantly. There's a whole swarm below. Run. Go back. Akori asked, but where? Kadia replied, terrified. Just go around them. They're disgusting. We can't waste time. Are you really going to just walk like that? Kadia trembled, her eyes still squeezed shut. Then she cautiously opened one eye. To her astonishment, the mutated species were frozen solid. Akori ran past the frozen creatures. Akori looked at Claudia and asked, is this okay? Then, holding Claudia, he ran towards the flag. We're here. Akori shouted joyfully, seeing Kadia praising him. You're amazing. While dry heaving, Akori asked, are you all right? Kadia replied wearily, not at all. She reached in her backpack and pulled out a map. It usually takes half a day, but now it only took 10 minutes, Kadia explained. What a waste not to get carsick, taking the frozen mutant route. I didn't expect you to be able to do that. I won't have to be afraid of anything anymore. Being a divine beast is truly impressive. Actually, you should be at the top of the magical creature rankings. Suddenly, Akori hugged Kadia. You don't have to worry about anything except me. Akori leaned against Kadia's shoulder and closed his eyes. It seems it's still very hot. Setting Akori down, Kadia took out her badge to contact the manager in charge. Looking at it, the appearance of the mutated species is even earlier than Niella's time. The only ones who could intervene are the managers. One of them must be acting abnormally. Claudia gently pressed her badge. Sir Lucas, please commence the operation. The next day, Akori carried Claudia on his back. Claudia struggled. Just you wait. I'm going to tell the Duke everything. Akori said to Kadia, look at the number of mutated species. Is this reasonable? It's like the entire savannah has been taken over. Kadia thought to herself, snatching a little girl, making a mess of the Duke's private grounds. Aren't they afraid of angering the head of the family? Or something else? But no, the Blasco branch family couldn't be that stupid. In that case, there's only one possibility. He already knows Akori is the master. Someone in the branch family closely related to the capital arena must already know that Akori, standing next to me, is a divine beast with 14 consecutive victories. But Akori's true identity probably hasn't been revealed. If it were discovered, the White Knights would have already captured him. Akori yelled, I'm so annoyed. It's so hot. And how much longer are they going to chase us? Very annoying. Kadia spotted a cave. How about we rest in that cave over there? There's shade. It should be cool. Akori, beaming, chirped great and stepped into the cave. Kadia, holding Akori's hair, said, tie your hair up. Having it down like this will only make you hotter. Should I cut it? Akori exclaimed. No way. Cutting my hair won't help me stay cool, and it'll look terrible. Kadia continued. If you cut this, will the fur get shorter too? Akori said sadly. It's not like that. What's the big deal? If you cut it, you won't complain about the heat anymore, right? Akori said irritably. No. Tyrant, go away. Akori clutched his hair, and after settling on a hairstyle, Kadia admired. So pretty. Akori's eyes widened. Very pretty. Don't you like it? Akori smiled brightly. If Kadia says it's pretty, then I guess it's okay. There he goes again. Look at him smile. When he grows up, he might be popular with everyone. Akori asked Kadia, what are you thinking about? Kadia quickly replied, nothing. We'll stay here tonight and head to the second base tomorrow morning. Okay. Kadia and Akori leaned against each other, resting. Akori mumbled sleepily, I'm so sleepy. Kadia looked at Akori. He's such a gentle boy, but why does Niella find him so hard to approach? In the original story, there are almost no scenes where Akori smiles. What will happen in the future that makes Akori, in the original story, so cold? I hope at least he won't be betrayed and suffer in the future. After a short nap, Akori woke up. The sun had already set. Akori slowly stood up and went outside to get a clearer view of the sunset. Standing on a rock and looking down, Akori saw a group of people calling him Master. It is an honor to meet you. Divine beasts are the kings of all magical creatures on the continent. Now, including the icicle, 5 divine beast tribes have completely disappeared from the world, and the royal bloodline is maintained through the beasts they left behind. Especially Akori Ola, the heir to the holy sword Halia, is considered to be on par with the icicle, a tremendously powerful being. If it weren't for the mutated species losing their minds and turning into monsters, they would clearly recognize that aura. The black crocodile crude asked, Master, that little girl is... Akori looked at Kadia and said with a smile, My master. The divine beasts were stunned by Akori's declaration, their jaws dropping. Master's master? The crocodile stepped forward to argue. She is not a divine beast. But Akori didn't say much. Kadia was human. He glared at the divine beasts, his eyes promising death. He commanded, Don't touch Kadia, not even with a single finger. If Kadia gets hurt, I'll freeze you all. The command given, the divine beasts dared not make a sound. Akori took Kadia's scent and bestowed it upon all the divine beasts. Remember this well, and pass it on to your companions. If you encounter anyone carrying this scent, stay away and be as loyal to them as you are to me. The divine beasts all obeyed, for anyone who dared touch someone with this scent would be dealt with by their master on the spot. The divine beasts put in their mouths and chewed, feeling a current run through their bodies. It felt like chewing grains of sand baked in the sun, crispy and warm, mesmerizing. The divine beasts felt like they were tapping into a new source of energy. It was rare to encounter such a special human. One divine beast couldn't help but exclaim, only to be reminded by another, Hey, quiet, Master will be angry. Sure enough, Akori looked at the 2-horned divine beast as if he would swallow it whole, scaring the other divine beasts out of their wits. Putting that aside, Akori asked about another matter. He asked the divine beasts, Why are there so many mutated species here? The divine beasts reported all the information. About 2 weeks ago, an Auguste in the lake suddenly started to mutate, and since then, the numbers have been increasing. Akori pondered, then spoke after hearing the news. In just 2 weeks? That's too fast. It doesn't seem like natural mutation. The divine beast continued. That's why we suspect human intervention. Perhaps they sprayed a special pheromone and combined it with magic. Akori thought to himself, could it be those people Kadia warned me about? After all, they are humans. Lost in thought, Akori rummaged through Kadia's backpack. She must have brought it from the mansion. Found it, the image orb. To protect Kadia's identity and achieve her goal, Akori tossed the orb to the divine beast and commanded, Take this. Throw it into the lake where the mutated creatures first appeared. Place it where the humans outside can see it. The divine beasts lowered their heads, obeying their master's command. 3 days later, in the swamp, Kadia sat in a makeshift boat Akori had crafted. She chattered incessantly. Did you tell those magical creatures that story? You should have woken me up. It's such a shame. Akori replied coldly, as if you would have woken up. The very thought is impressive. Kadia bristled at his words. Are you criticizing my sleeping habits now? Her face flushed crimson. Yet Akori continued to tease. Hold on to the bag. If you're sleepy, go back to sleep. Kadia thought silently. A special pheromone? I need more definitive proof to demonstrate collusion with the Branch family. If that's the case, it's time to unveil the legendary item, isn't it? Just then, purple smoke and a whirlpool suddenly appeared beneath the calm water surface. A geyser erupted from the center of the whirlpool, rocking Kadia's small boat violently. Monstrous figures emerged, mutated crustaceans, but it seemed there wasn't just one. There might be a whole swarm underwater. The boat teetered precariously. Kadia clung to her backpack, her face pale with terror. She braced for a plunge into the water, but landed on something solid, ice. The ice saved her from a disastrous fall. Despite rescuing the girl, his tone was gruff. Who would be foolish enough to spray pheromones like that? Sometimes you humans are truly baffling. Kadia asked the divine beast in astonishment. How did you know it was humans? Akori explained. Their skin is red and covered in scratches. Someone forcibly rubbed the special pheromones on them. Those scars wouldn't appear naturally on mutated creatures. Kadia seemed to grasp a new truth, her excitement bubbling. Oh, this will be easy to confirm. Akori gathered mana in his hand, intending to freeze the entire swarm at once. But Kadia panicked and stopped him. Wait, don't summon Heiress yet. Return to your beast form, Akori. She pulled out a summoning stone. Kadia needed a witness to confirm the Branch family was obstructing the inheritance exam, and this person had to possess enough power to completely suppress them. This person was a direct descendant of Blasco. Kadia slammed the summoning stone onto the ground, shattering it. Beside Duke Blasco, the light of a crystal ball flickered. This sudden event startled everyone present. Lucas Blasco cried out in astonishment. They've already reached the main camp. Looking closely into the orb, they saw the scene beside Kadia, the monsters frantically tearing at each other. Lucas couldn't believe his eyes. The crustaceans in the lake have mutated? How is that possible? I've been managing their health, the environment, and maintaining the balance of the food chain. His surprised expression morphed into terrifying rage. Lucas clenched his fists, veins bulging prominently. Someone deliberately interfered. An intrusion into the savannah means there's a traitor within Blasco. He commanded Werner and Arnold, one of you bring that child out, the other investigate the source of the headless specter. By the authority of the head of the family, this exam is cancelled. Suddenly, a flash of lightning appeared. Werner's summoning stone, given to him by Kadia. Seeing this signal, Werner didn't hesitate. I must go to Kadia. She's summoning me. I'll go now. With that, Werner appeared beside Kadia's boat. The moment she saw him, she urged him to record the scene before them. Suddenly, Claudia was jolted. Werner, gripping her collar and hoisting her into the air, complained, "You too. You should have called for help first." What are you talking about? Werner handed the recording sphere to Kadia, explaining that his hands were full. So you should film this. Record it clearly. Don't miss anything. Can you do it? A brilliant smile spread across Werner's face, the sunlight amplifying its radiance. Kadia excitedly gave him a thumbs up. Great. Watch my counterattack. Water splashed everywhere as Werner tumbled to the ground, soaked to the bone. He turned to Kadia and asked, "Did you get it all?" Kadia replied cheerfully, "Yes, I recorded everything." Werner asked with concern, "Are you hurt anywhere?" Kadia quickly answered, "No, young master." "Are you all right, young master?" A flicker of disappointment crossed Werner's face. Every time, she called him young master. "You're so close to Arnold, but I'm still just young master to you." A wave of sadness washed over him. "Me too. Let's go. We're almost at the second camp." Kadia was puzzled. "Why are you suddenly so distant? Did I do something wrong back at the palace?" Kadia's voice boomed from the crystal sphere. "My lord, Lucas." Lucas replied softly, "Little Orange, are you all right?" Kadia answered, "Yes. I'm Fina. Have you gathered anything?" Lucas was examining documents. "As you said, I'm reviewing each document one by one. The mining center in the south is led by Chin Blasco." Kadia felt a pang of sympathy for the Duke, forced to sift through nearly 30 years of records. It sounded like torture. Lucas spoke to Kadia in a gentle voice. "So, what are you going to do now? Since there's clear evidence of interference, the test can be stopped at any time. Are you coming out?" Kadia answered frankly, "No, I want to finish it and capture the flag before I leave. Although it might be dangerous with a young master." Kadia was confident that things would be all right. It's considered cheating anyway, so I might as well go all out. A mischievous grin spread across Kadia's face. Hearing her say this, Lucas couldn't help but chuckle. I knew it. He told Kadia not to act rashly and to take care of herself. In a blink of an eye, the fourth day arrived. Werner trailed behind Kadia. He called her name, asking her to stop. Claudia was surprised that the young master hadn't called her kid, but had used her name directly. Werner noticed Claudia limping. Her calf was swollen. Claudia herself hadn't even noticed. He gently bandaged her calf, chiding her kindly. If it hurts, you should have asked for help immediately. No one here would forbid you from being carried out. Werner pulled out Kadia's socks from his pocket, a gesture that surprised her even more. He gently slipped the socks on her feet, thinking to himself, she's so exhausted she doesn't even realize she's injured. Seeing Werner lost in thought, Kadia spoke. Young master, is something wrong? You seem unhappy. Did I do something wrong? Werner stood up coldly. It's not that. On the contrary, seeing someone like you having to endure this is what frustrates me. He gritted his teeth in vexation. Those old foxes only care about their own self-interest. Through such underhanded means, a wave of emotion washed over Kadia. She looked at Werner, her eyes shining. So he was worried about her. Suddenly, Werner asked, do you hate me that much? Yet you're so close to Arnold. The question stunned Kadia. What? She responded, flustered. How could that be? I really want to be friends with you, young master. I just wish I had an older brother like you. Werner was taken aback by her reaction. Older brother? Kadia hurried to explain. Well, like having an older brother. I know it's a bit greedy, but before she could finish, Werner's heart warmed. He said shyly, after we get through this test, well, it's not difficult. Just think of me as your younger sister. You're so smart, and everyone likes you. Kadia was overjoyed. Werner had actually accepted her. It was beyond her wildest dreams. She recalled Werner's earlier words. It's just that I don't see him as a father figure, so I'm not used to calling him that. Kadia mused. Perhaps it was his estrangement from his family. Perhaps the loneliness of having no one to confide in. Kadia called out, young master. Her voice rang with determination. I'll definitely pass this exam, and I'll always support you. Believe me, young master, you can do it. Werner, startled by her sudden declaration, nonetheless replied gently, don't get hurt. The fifth day is upon us. Kadia's expression was a mixture of awkwardness and stiffness. Perched atop the divine beast, she wondered what Akori was doing. Akori didn't answer, seemingly oblivious to Kadia's question. Noticing the birds flitting around Kadia, Werner remarked cheerfully, it seems animals really are fond of you. Kadia mused to herself. Could this be the reason? My aura, it's beginning to fade. Just then, dark shadows soaring through the sky caught Kadia's attention. They were flying manta rays, shadow beasts, incredibly rare, mutated creatures, only 3 in the entire world. One of them, shrinking in size, approached Kadia. Encountering one was said to be an omen of good fortune. The shadow beast's most remarkable ability was its power of concealment. With its immense body, it could completely mask the presence of anything. Furthermore, the ruby that grew within it every 10 years could not only hide its master's form, but also their voice, tracks, and even their size, rendering them invisible like air. The manta ray nuzzled against Kadia's cheek, delighting her. It seemed she had won its favor. Suddenly, an idea sparked in Kadia's mind. She called out to the manta ray, promising to seek its help in the future. After a long day's journey, night fell. This was the final checkpoint. Kadia quickly caught up with Werner, but then she stopped abruptly. They had passed all the main camps. Now, all that remained to complete the exam was to seize the Blasco flag at the last station. But why was there no flag? No camp? Nothing at all? Werner Blasco pondered for a moment, then exclaimed, it seems Arnold has already passed through here. Kadia was surprised. She went in too? Werner speculated. Yes, she went in to investigate the cause of the mutated species. She must have engaged in a battle and likely ran past here while pursuing them. Suddenly, a light emanated from Kadia's hand. Sensing this rich magical and life energy proved they were still nearby. Akori, seemingly sensing something, began digging in the ground. Then, with a nod, he brought something to Kadia's feet. Kadia looked down and saw the flag. She raised it high with a triumphant cry. The flag. If I have this, the exam is complete, right? Kadia thanked Akori, who looked exhausted. With this, the exam is considered finished. From now on, I'm going to start my counterattack. Kadia turned to Werner. Young master, please lure the mutated creatures here. Don't kill them yet. Werner was taken aback. What was she planning? He didn't question further, instead agreeing. Understood. Be careful, because we don't know what will appear next. Then Kadia took out an item. examinees could request assistance from the examiner once. Now is the perfect time to use that special provision. She spoke into the communication device. Lord Lucas, can you hear me? Do you remember what I asked you to do? The other side answered, yes. All those who acted suspiciously or attempted to contact the outside world within the past 4 days, including Blasco, have been apprehended. Hearing this, Kadia's eyes lit up with excitement. Then, bring all those people here. Moments later, the group was teleported to her location. They cried out in terror. What are those mutated creatures? Werner and Arnold were now battling the mutated creatures. Seeing this, Kadia was pleased. They're both safe. It seems the mutated creatures have weakened somewhat. All right now. She ran over and called out, Lord Lucas. Seeing her running towards him, Lucas asked kindly, Miss, are you all right? She replied, I'm fine. But, Lord Lucas, managing the mutated creatures is the examiner's responsibility, correct? Lucas answered, yes. Back where Arnold and Werner had been, Arnold questioned him. She just led them here. What in the world is she planning? Werner shook his head. I don't know. We'll have to observe for now. Meanwhile, Lucas, having spoken with the foreman there, was asked, all right, observe. So, are you going to leave your duties to the nobles? They were questioned and fearfully denied everything. Then the two overseers began to use their abilities, but Kadia, hiding behind Lucas with a mischievous grin, pulled out the crystal sphere. The mutated creatures, sensing something, bristled with killing intent. Seeing this, the overseers panicked. They came straight towards us. The frenzied creatures attacked all the laborers standing there. Kadia, holding the crystal sphere, feigned innocence. Oh dear, Lord Lucas, why did they suddenly stop attacking? They were so ferocious just a moment ago. Arnold and Werner, standing to the side, exchanged puzzled glances. Arnold wondered what they were doing. Werner seemed equally bewildered. They appeared to be sniffing something. Suddenly, both of them realized something, exclaiming in unison, pheromones. Kadia mused, just as I suspected. The overseers are accomplices of the branch family, manipulating everything. They must have created special pheromones. She was certain that during the process of creating and injecting the pheromones, a small amount must have gotten on them. Werner realized this too. The pheromones they emit can only be detected by their own kind. If they stopped attacking and just sniffed around, perhaps they detected pheromones of the same type. Kadia gasped dramatically. Oh my goodness! Does this mean someone among them has been raising these creatures? As she spoke, she recorded everything with a recording orb. The mutated creatures were now approaching. They attacked the people there, who could only scream, no. Why are they attacking me? An old man yelled, get away, you filthy things. Despite his shouts, the creatures acted as if they had encountered kin. Seeing this, Kadia feigned naivety. Could it be that Master Chin raised these mutated creatures? Chin, exposed, glared at her furiously. Don't spout nonsense, little girl. Watch your words. He still denied having done it. What is this place? Framing me with such low-level tricks. Werner slowly walked towards Chin, drawing his knife and holding it to Chin's throat. Uncle, was it you who spread the special pheromones on the Lord's land? You betrayed the family. Chin trembled, hastily saying, there's no such thing. What betrayal? I don't know anything. Kadia thought to herself, although the pheromones were made by the mages, it was Chin who recruited them. In the process of interacting with the mages and inspecting the mutated creatures, he must have also been marked with the pheromones. Werner leaned closer, his voice cold. The evidence is conclusive, Uncle. Kadia smiled triumphantly. This is what they mean by good deeds being rewarded. Chin, enraged, was speechless. Kadia's face was filled with a murderous aura, but she suddenly turned away. Lucas apprehended the foreman and spoke gently to Kadia. Let's go, Mississippi. After everything was over, she took Lucas's hand. They returned to the palace. Hearing the commotion, Louise let them in. Kadia, holding the flag, ran in excitedly. My lord, I'm back. She continued with a bright smile. I passed this time too, right? Please stamp it for me, my lord. Lucas looked at her tenderly. He embraced Kadia tightly, smiling radiantly. Yes, I'll stamp it for you. Kadia now received the completion stamp for the exam. Lucas patted Kadia's head affectionately. With this, you've passed the second exam.